Hello everybody, my name is Linkzzey and welcome to my 50,000 day hardcore Minecraft world tour. Today I'm going to be showcasing over 40 different mega builds in several different regions all throughout my world, ranging from medieval builds all the way over to coral palaces. I'll also be teaching you guys a few tricks that I've learned along the way to help me survive so long in hardcore. It's also important to note that this world has no AFK time in it, so 12,500 hours is all active playtime. In other words, there's going to be a lot of builds. But quickly, before we get into it, don't forget to leave a like. Consider subscribing, because if I hit 1 million subscribers on this channel, I'll not only start releasing schematics for all of my builds, but I'll consider releasing a world download as well. And we're going to go ahead and kick things off here in the medieval region. I've got about 500 hours invested in this project so far, with the Temple of Time, the Passage of Time, and the Tree of Knowledge. So we're going to start things off with this bridge right on over here. I love the way that everything turned out. This is probably one of my best bridges I've yet to make to date. And the tree itself, for being somebody who's not good with organics in the slightest, I think I did a pretty damn good job at that as well. I built some birds coming out of the tree itself, and I've got some like wispy leaves with like the candles cascading off. The Temple of Time being off to the side right on over here, because I meant to say the bridge itself is just absolutely gorgeous. The way that all of the lines are put into place, and this is all natural shading in Minecraft, which is pretty insane. This is literally just stone, but it's multiple layers of stone that's hidden behind other pieces of stone, so it gives it like a really cool effect that the entire thing has been shaded without having to place any shading itself. The Passage of Time is the bridge that's going to connect the Titan of Time right here over to the God of Wisdom, which I'll show you guys exactly what that is in just a moment. But we have the statues along here to indicate everybody who has hit over 1 entire year of watch time on my Twitch channel. Everyone that has supported me getting all the way up to this point. So if you see your name here, let me know in the comments below. And I just want to say a big shout out to each and every one of you guys. Thank you, because you've helped me get to the point that I'm at today and allow me to build builds like this and this for all of you guys today. The Tree of Knowledge has a little bit of a scene underneath it. If you guys know any of these characters, let me know who they are in the comments below, because I think it's quite obvious. If you don't know who they are, then you need to figure that out. Little beehive up there for a little pop of color, and of course the owl. It actually all started off with the owl being symbolic of wisdom, and then I kind of just went with the rest of the whole scene just because I had all of the heads. I'll show you guys how I get those heads through the Wandering Trader right after this as well. The God of Wisdom being currently laid out. Since I do not use Lightmatic in this world, I lay out each and every single one of my projects with a tiled block. So I use a lot of diorite or granite. That way I can like easily count exactly how many blocks something is, and my dimensions don't get lost. So if you guys are wondering exactly how I build all of the stuff that you're about to see, well, just know that each and every one of the projects all started off like this live on Twitch. And here's just a quick clip of me trading with the Wandering Trader to buy a bunch of custom heads through a data pack that I have made for me on a monthly basis. Now, I did mention that this was going to be the medieval region of my world, but there is no kingdom to be found. And that's mainly because this area is a brand new area of my world, which I call regions. That way I can keep everything a little bit more cohesive throughout the lands. Before I get into any of that though, I need to do a lot of landscaping, of course. This hill needs to be changed. All these rivers need to be widened up and cleaned up a little bit. And well, you know the drill. But the Temple of Time behind me is probably one of my favorite builds in this entire world, mainly because it is a monotone gray palette, which is my favorite palette, and I just love the way that the roof turned out, utilizing dark prismarine and different types of cyans to pretty much come up with a really cool way of texturing and shading and adding tints to the roof just to bring out more and more levels of detail throughout the build. I have the rainbow windows all up top here, and then down below I've got the green and cyan light blue windows down below. And the way that everything kind of comes out, I'm a big fan of. That might just because I really enjoy the monotone grayness of everything. I know it's lacking a lot of color, but that's the point. But the inside is a little bit of a different story. So this build is built for my 100 clerics that are going to help me basically obtain a lot of redstone, lapis, glowstone, and bottles of enchanting in my world, which will help expedite larger and larger projects in the future for when I want to take on mega builds with these resources in mind. Looking at these walls, there is a crazy amount of detail and layers to these walls, and it was a lot of work to try. I completely missed that. Hello? It was a lot of work to pretty much incorporate as much lighting as I possibly could throughout these walls. So I've got like lanterns and candles that you can barely see, a lot of lichen. There's a floating candle in behind there, lanterns and candles all throughout there, and just a lot of light that you're just not able to see. That took me a very long time to figure out how to balance that all out. And behind the trap doors are frog lights, and behind here I've got the little chandeliers. I love the way that these windows turned out, going from like light blue, cyan to dark blue, and I've kind of carried that on throughout the build itself. Got some hourglasses to be symbolic of time itself. The void floor, which looks absolutely incredible with shaders. I'll show you guys what that looks like in just a moment after I'm done showcasing the rest of the build. There's the galaxy up in the roof, all of the shooting stars coming in towards the galaxy, which is supposed to be symbolic of all of the moderators who help me do what I do on a daily basis. The end rods, which are supposed to be the stars. The back wall. Funny story about this bridge here actually was when I was building this in the very beginning with all the smokers, I was going along these walls and I thought I actually put the smokers on the right Y level. Turns out I didn't. So I was kind of hemming and hawing and trying to figure out exactly what to do moving forward. And that's actually why I built these bridges, just to kind of break it up a little bit. I needed to kind of lower the elevation of the room anyways. And I think it serves a really good divide and breaks up the monotony of the floor. And because I would have gone the glass the whole way through, and honestly, in hindsight, that would have been kind of boring. But I'll tell you what isn't boring. This floor. Look how incredible this floor turns out when I've got the shaders turned on. But not just the floor, but of course, the galaxy up in the sky. I love the way the shaders look with this build, and the reflections in the glass picking up on all of the fire and everything like that. I definitely can't wait to expand. And let me show you guys exactly where I'm going to be expanding. Down inside of this hole, I'm going to be falling into an apothecary later on in the future. Yeah, it's a lot of frog lights down here. It's definitely kind of crazy. I have a villager breeder pumping out tons of villagers that are currently off right now. I think that's a Waddles design. Down here is where I have about 80 different villagers, and a couple of them I've been kind of upgrading along the way. I haven't actually dedicated any time down here because I really do need to dig out this entire space. I got some stuff to sell with all these dudes, and I've got a lot of work to be done. Not to mention, when we're flying up out of here, this sky looks absolutely gorgeous, so I definitely can't wait to expand the apothecary in the future. Now, I did mention to you guys I had everything from medieval to coral palaces, and well, this is the coral palace right here. I had a ton of fun with this one, being able to balance the color along the way with the coral, the octopus, the rainbow, the coral dragon leaping across the sky on clouds that are raining, which is why the actual rainbow is there. I have a diagonal boat, and I've created a really cool effect right here, which is what I call the mist effect, making it look like the water's descending down into a misty like landscape. So one day I'm going to be expanding this area down here to go into the depths of the ocean. There's no telling just how deep that ocean goes. So I'm looking forward to how that shapes up in the future. These cliffs around here, I think I did a pretty good job at texturing those cliffs. I have a Japanese style house right on over here. Some of the waterfalls like cut off and go straight into the mist down below. I built this all up for Sin City with her daughters, looking up at the coral dragon and of course the palace itself, which is chocked full of about 15 or 16 different automatic farms all within there. A little bit of a side profile of the boat that I built for Paisley. These are all individuals on the Twitch side of things. So if you guys want to have anything built for yourself, you know where to find me over on the Twitch. I got a whole channel point system so you guys can earn builds along the way. This bridge in particular, alongside with the bridge I just shown you guys in the medieval area, this is up there for one of my favorite bridges in my world as well. But they're uncomparable, being two completely different bridges from one another. This was supposed to be inspired by a dragon. So it's almost like we're walking through the dragon when we're going from point A to point B. I have the Torii Gate. There's going to be a Japanese city back there. And same thing goes with the other side. I'm just going to expand it like that. Going from the diorite walls, fences, and rods to create a really cool taper. And that these cactus flowers have the ability to go on any block in the game, which is nuts, is a beautiful way to add in a little bit of color along the way, because I felt like the coral fans are not only a pain, but they're not as good, unfortunately. Little bit of a cool design in the floor right here. I have a birch and dark oak or birch and dark prismarine path that goes up to the palace itself. But before we do that, let me show you the rooftop and a little bit of all of the texturing and shading I did along the way. Got the little starfish. You're probably wondering, how the heck is this all still alive here? Well, behind each and every single one of these blocks is a waterlogged mangrove root, which allowed me to be able to play around a lot with a lot of the coral. And when we take a little bit of a closer look at the coral dragon itself, it's actually primarily built out of coral. So I actually had to build this thing 2 different times, one with all of the roots and another time with all of the coral. Actually, probably 3 times, because I would have laid something out like this with stone before actually committing to it. But I like the way that it all turned out in the end. The octopus is probably one of my favorite builds in this whole build. Let's take a look at the interior, where I've split it up into 3 different segments, and I can show you guys where all the farms are located. The first segment is the aquarium with the Atlantis in behind the glass, so you'll see some fish swimming around there. Then we have the beach with the very tired turtle who's probably pooped from plopping out all these eggs right over here. There's actually a farm inside of here. I don't know how to get in without destroying anything. Oh god, I've already destroyed stuff. Well, I think I fixed it, but I have an additional green block that I have no idea where it goes. So I'm just gonna give this guy a extended long tail. It's a little bit wonky, but you know what? It's our wonky, you know what I mean? Over here, I've got a beautiful bird that just hangs out. The acacia trap doors, I think, work wonders with the claws. I have a little bird right here taking care of all of the eggs. Then the bird scene with all of the clouds up in the sky. And then little blue axolotls. We got the fishing people. Bearded dragon just kind of hanging out on the beach area. Some palm trees. Over here is Davy Jones's locker. So I have a sunken pirate ship with a giant whale. In here, I have a coral fan farm and a sea pickle farm, I believe. This is supposed to be the deep ocean. So I got some jellyfish, some fiery vents, some skullfish, deep sea divers. And I think that this turned out pretty dang cool. We got some of the dried gas in here as well. And behind here, I've got a firefly bush farm, a sweetberry bush, and a regular bush farm. And then I've got another sea pickle farm right in here. And I've added in some of the dead coral that I thought looked pretty dang cool. And in the end, it looks like the deep ocean. But if I needed anything to do with terraforming in any way, shape, or form, I've got all of it pretty much in behind these cliffs and stuff. So I got the red flowers, the yellow flowers, and on that side I have the other corresponding flowers. So beautiful and functional. Speaking about beautiful, we're going to be heading over to the Alice in Wonderland Island and Frog Haven with the Christmas Island. But this has gone through a little bit of a transition. So Alice in Wonderland used to look very different a year ago. So let me show you guys what that looked like. And now it looks like this. What a massive change from what it used to look like. And I ain't going back, dude. I think that this looks so much better with the tall mushrooms and the really big flowers cascaded around the island and the redone blossom trees. I think there was probably just a little bit, but too much pink going on this island before. And now I think there's a little bit more red and everything is balanced out a little bit more properly. And looking at the way that this castle now looks opposed to what it used to look like before, I think the major facelift has really done it some wonders. This is the Queen of Hearts castle, and it incorporates a little bit of the mushrooms with the green vines, and I've incorporated different types of like bows and wanted to try to add in a little bit of depth. So I've kind of hollowed out some heart areas, and then I've brought some of the hearts out, of course. And then I've redesigned the interior of the Queen of Hearts castle to be kind of framed by the flamingos. We've got Bunny right here, the checkered board floor, this wall, which I think just absolutely screams Alice in Wonderland. I want to put some like sideways tea tables and stuff. And then right here, I've got a little bit of a tea table where I'm going to be creating a scene of the Mad Hatter and some friends hanging out, enjoying some tea. You're immediately accompanied by the cake in the center of the island, which is the rabbit with a monocle, some cards in its hat. We have Mrs. Potts spilling some tea into Chip right over here. It looks like somebody also took a bite out of the cake. And we have the pocket watch down the bottom left. The main map of this entire area, smack dab in the center of the island. That way, when people come in through the portal, they can immediately see the map and kind of see what's going on here. A lot of these mushrooms are cantilevering on over the pathway to kind of give you that feeling of being really small, like Alice is when she drinks the Drink Me potion and shrinks down into the size where she can fall into the log and end up in Wonderland, basically. A lot of these mushrooms did take a lot of hard work because mushroom stems, if you guys know, then you guys know they are not easy to come by, but I'm very happy that I did so. This central mushroom, I think, helps take up a lot of that negative space between Pixel Palace right on over here and the Queen of Hearts castle, by having the big giant mushrooms right here to kind of bridge that gap a little bit. And then of course I have the hot air balloons right up here in the sky, the red one, yellow and pink, using up a lot of different colors, a lot of gold blocks and a lot of iron blocks. I almost went bankrupt building these 3 hot air balloons, but I'm happy with the way that they turned out. Pixel Palace right on over here actually has a warden up in the tower right on over there. Let me show you guys what that looks like. I don't know what it is, I think it might be the axolotls on the interior, but he's always hanging out in the corner there. But this was one of the very first wardens that we ever actually captured in this world, live on the Twitch streams and stuff. And it was definitely an event to move that guy up inside the castle because, well, if you've ever moved a warden up in a castle, then you kind of know how hard that is. More mushrooms cantilevering on over the pathway. Right here, I have the chessboard with all of the pawns and all of the characters. So you can play like a live game of chess. These little animals that I found on Pinterest designed by iPhelps. Big shout out to iPhelps for a lot of this type of stuff because I thought they were just a little bit too cute to pass up. I had to build these in my world. I think they're adorable. We have the raccoons. We have the penguin and the snowman out here in the snowy biome. So this would be like the snowy area, the spruce taiga area, the mushroom lands. We have a rabbit with a little carrot right there, a goat, and a little mushroom chilling right there as well. Got a little green frog hanging out, a bigger frog, which was supposed to be a game where you take a fishing pole and you go fishing. Which one is this? Hemora? Hemora? I don't know what that is. Where you're supposed to catch a bunch of fish and whatnot. Over here, we have another one of those turtles that I just broke. Take a little bit of a look at the backside and see what I may have messed up. It looks like I know where I messed up. We have Carl. Carl is our baby turtle who hangs out in his little terrarium. Over here, we got some crabs hanging out on the beach. These conduits, I think, give off a light level of 7. I may be mistaken. I think I also have, a bunch of pandas. This is a petting zoo that's under construction. You guys will have to wait probably until the next world tour so I can show you guys what's going to go inside of the petting zoo. Another mushroom kind of hanging on over. This is Pixel Palace. So I have the rabbits right along there, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, the flamingos, and this is where Bunny hangs out. She's the Princess of Wonderland. She's at her tea table here enjoying some tea and cake. Got her big fork hanging out. There's a giant axolotl behind her. Obviously, the theme is cyan and pink or magenta along the way. We got these aquariums with the mushrooms and the coral going all the way up. And same thing goes with that side as well. Over here on the right, I have the gas station. So that's where I have the happy gas. That's how I get from one island to the next in theory, but in real life, I just fly. I think this turned out pretty nice. The gas itself doesn't have a name yet. So if you guys have a name for this happy gas, then put it down below and you can maybe name the happy gas in this world. There's just a couple more builds to showcase on here. I have the casino right on over here, which has the shulker boxes living inside of a treasure chest where I found a very rare trident mob that is also holding a nautilus shell. So I immediately took him and he is now our bartender. Poker table, pool table, you can play some darts, and then I have like these randomizers so you can get some micro blocks or whatever it may be. Next up, I have the donut shop. I built this for round. This has got the goat on the island inside of it. I can't let them run rampant, otherwise they'll ram all of my armor stands, which definitely gets annoying. I thought for a minute there he wasn't in here. So he just kind of hangs out in here and sells donuts. We've got this self-serve ice cream shop run by Samantha Enterprise, so Sam and Amanda. And as you can tell, they got a lot of very angry customers along the way. And here is where they kind of hang out. I've also accumulated a bunch of other random mobs. They are the grumpy pandas. I've got a fox in here named Crush, and I've got a Ban Bill mushroom kind of hanging out in there. Jitters, which is the coffee shop, run by 2 zombified pigmen who just chill out and serve you coffee. You can have a nice like cup of joe while having a really nice look at the scenery. And then it's got a very beautiful view of the Winter Island that I'll show you guys here in just a moment. And then Abby's boat, which is the magical boat along there. Flying on up. No Alice in Wonderland Island would ever be complete without the Cheshire Cat. Next up, we're going to be crossing the ocean and heading on over to Frog Haven. This island was heavily inspired by Animal Crossing. If you guys have ever played it, then you'll definitely recognize this build. But before I show you that, let me show you this boat on over here, which is the warped Nylium pirate ship that I built for cardistry. And I love the way that this one turned out, especially all of the colors with the warped Nylium and the dark oak wood, using these signs to kind of cut everything on up. And I can't wait to see what cardistry does with this ship in the future. Having a little bit of a captain's quarters back here where they can hang out and do whatever pirates do. But the dark oak signs in front of the warped Nylium, I think looks terrific. And now for the airport called 13 Airlines with the frogs on Frog Haven. So I have the banners to indicate that right here. And then we have Mike Croft, who welcomes you to and when you're leaving the island. And Zopa right on over here, who pilots the seaplane, who will bring you here or if you're ever leaving. And then we have Blitz, who's welcoming you to the island itself. Right on over here to the left, I have the map of the entire island, and there's definitely going to be quite a bit to see here. So I'm not going to show you guys all of the interiors, but a lot of the builds you guys will see here do definitely have interiors. We have the big giant fountain right here to welcome in everybody into the island. I have a couple little stands if you guys want to buy any like baskets or any flowers. Japanese, but this was actually one of my very first Japanese houses that I ever actually built. An observatory, a lighthouse, a little house right on over there. But before we actually get into the thick of it, let me show you guys these boats up here. So this one is a pretty funny boat being held up by a balloon, but not just a balloon, it's also hamster powered. So these hamsters run on these wheels that propel the propeller and push the boat through the sky while the balloons keep the elevation high. And I think I also have a little blaze in there keeping the balloons kind of like a hot air balloon. I guess that doesn't really make much sense because of the way that they're all put together, but we don't think about that now, do we? This is her boat itself. If we enter in here, she's got her little captain's quarters with her jacket box back there. She's got the upstairs over here where she sleeps, and she's got her little gaming system, a nice little bathtub, and a dead fish in the aquarium. And the next boat being the end ship itself, piloted by Mandolin. The lore behind this was Mandolin was supposed to be coming in from the outer islands, bringing in all of the cool microblocks that you guys see here. But unfortunately, we quickly outgrew this place. So I've got shulker boxes scattered all amongst this area where I have just basically thrown micro blocks throughout all the years of pretty much having this boat. But on the inside, everything's a little bit more well organized. So I've got like the cartoon characters, the Pokemon characters. I'm a big fan of One Piece, so I've got a ton of cool One Piece characters. And if you guys are a fan of One Piece, let me know in the comments down below if you think the One Piece is real. I think it is. I think Luffy's the One Piece. A little bit of a spoiler for you guys. And I also have the Going Merry, the Thousand Sunny, and a whole One Piece inspired island that you guys will see later in today's video. Back on the island here, you guys can see that I have incorporated all the trees throughout here, which I think definitely bring this place together. This actually was part of the recreation of the Alice in Wonderland island over here. I actually redid this entire island, putting in all of the trees and redoing all of the pathways throughout here. I have the Nylium house right here, and right on over here, there's a couple iconic builds from Animal Crossing, being Nook's Cranny right here, but I've made this one Linkz, right here. And this is where I used to basically sell all of the micro blocks in the past. Me and my best friend Outsider, who I have the world to thank for getting me involved in Minecraft and streaming and everything, because without that guy, I would have never gave hardcore a shot, and I would have never seen how far I would have been able to take this world. Up top, we have a cool wizard tower looking down upon us with a really cool magical garden. I'll show you guys here in just a minute. I have the Able sisters right here. They're selling different outfits, but instead of outfits, they're selling a bunch of different costumes throughout here, but also showcasing all of the different armor trims throughout. And then I have Bunny, who's showcasing a little bit of the poses that people can get for their NPC characters in the world. Back here, we have Red's pirate ship selling a bunch of stolen artwork ran by Essentially. And she's got a little Nautilus hanging out on the boat as well. And apparently oh my God, apparently a donkey as well. So let's just push this guy out of there. I don't know what he's doing underneath the deck or where he's heading off to, but I think I just saved a donkey's life. This is the fairy garden. I've got these tiny little bees, little cakes, mushrooms, berries, little mushroom houses throughout here, little unicorns, gingerbread houses, little allays, and it's supposed to be this tiny little fairy garden. This is on an authentic cat from a witch hut across the way. There's a swamp just back there. I have a spider who caught a little fly in its web, little waterfall with some chickens swimming on through. I've got a tiny little snail on the lily pad, and this was a really, really fun build to do. Speaking of fun, this house was a lot of fun as well, incorporating the new cherry logs because I love the color and wanting to balance it in with a little bit of the purple terracotta. But on the inside, it is also a bakery. So I've got Remy hanging out on the grindstones. The idea is that Remy just kind of wheels side to side in order to get stuff done. So he is kneading a bunch of dough. He's got his rolling pin, some towels to wipe his hands, little towel rack along there. They're selling all sorts of treats and goodies. We've got this little group of people coming in, wanting to buy some sweets from Remy themselves. We have Luffy going in for a disguised cake, in for a not so happy welcome from the shulker box. And then we got Thyman, who accidentally teleported inside of the furnace and is trying to get out. Moving along over to the museum that has the coffee shop inside of it from Animal Crossing. The coffee shop being right on over here. To the right, ran by Sin. And then to the left is the museum itself, ran by Krabby Kronos, where we have each and every single one of the pots out on display. And I'm waiting for some other really cool things that I could put out on display in here as well. If you guys have any suggestions, let me know down below. Right on back here, I've got a couple other additional houses. I'm not going to show you guys too much. They're just like beach houses along the way. I have a house right here that I built for Bunny. And then down here, you guys might actually be able to recognize this from Adventure Time, but this is Princess Bubblegum hanging out at her cabin in front of her pumpkin patch with all of her varmints and stuff. So if you guys are a fan of Adventure Time, this is probably very familiar to you. Across the way, I have a bunch of different mushroom houses. And then this house right along there. We have a skulkified mushroom house with a bunch of cats. And then I have a mushroom house back here with a little garden and some dragons being hatched and grown throughout the area. Doubling back along here, I have the beach with all of the wagons at the forefront of the island. We have like little sand castles and crabs and donkey rides. Over here, I have a tiki bar. If you guys want to get yourself a nice little beverage and hang out. This is the juice wagon with bees, supplying everybody with juice on the beach. So she's got all of her friends from the Hello Kitty universe, which she loves, all hanging out. We got a couple detectives chillaxing and stuff. Cool sandcastle as well. We got tridents inside of the sand. A bunch of floaties. Got a unicorn floaty and a little duck floaty, and this guy is surfing out here. The pie wagon, selling pies to everybody with a little bit of steam coming off the top of that there. There is the ham. Ham is selling bells and pork chops over here, which is kind of ironic because he is also a pig. So that's interesting. Got the apple in the mouth right here. We've got this scam artist with all of their bells. And then I've kind of got some Easter eggs with Jesse hanging out with their coughing. James with Victory Bell kind of over there. We got a little mouse with its cheese living in its little house underneath there. Artistry's wagon that's selling some mushroom soup. And then I have Ash Ketchum, Misty, and a bunch of other little Easter eggs that you guys will see along the way. Little bit of a volleyball course. If you want to play some volleyball, you can do that right here. There is a ocean house, a tree house, and in behind that is normal guys, big giant candy ship right here, which I can't wait to see exactly what they do with that in the future. And then right here is actually Melly's villa. So Melly lives here on her island, and down below she's been slowly collecting up all of the animal micro blocks I have in here. So I've got a bunch of display cases so she could display some cool stuff, and she's got some shelves, but that is nowhere near the amount of micro blocks that she has bought in the world, which are all 25,000 gapples a piece. So she's a massive supporter of the community. She's hanging out right there. Over here, we've got the llamas and the rabbits. And here we have a little bit of an art gallery, a zen area with all the birds and the frogs, which looks really cool. We got a little katana with this whatever this thing is, the certificate of authentication. Authenticity is the word I'm looking for. I knew something didn't seem right. We have the frog in the ceiling looking down at all of the other micro blocks that Melly has out on display. There is a dinner party going on right on over here. Up top, she actually has a Christmas party that we threw on Christmas Day itself. Is one of my favorite days of the entire year that I stream, where I get to bring everybody together and kind of spread the joy of Christmas. So she's got all of her presents. She's bringing out some hot chocolate for everybody. And that was a really, really fun day. The aquarium that you walk up underneath, I thought was very neat. And then I have the upstairs, which basically has a bowling alley and an extension of the art gallery, where all of my paintings are actually broken in here, unfortunately. But this is the bowling alley. So we have the bowling ball return. We have people bowling. And then I put Sin over here, which is kind of funny. I had way too many of her heads, so she is the bowling pins, which I thought was a pretty funny thing to do. And as I was just saying, Christmas is my favorite time of the year in order to stream. And this is what I did on Christmas Day, was I built up my gingerbread house over here on Christmas Island, with the Grinch hanging out, two Grinches actually hanging out, trying to steal all of my Christmas lights. And we've got people who are caroling and looking at Christmas lights. We have the map, of course, which is probably very outdated by now. There's a lot of stuff when it comes to this. So the S and the C are supposed to be Santa Claus. And then I've got Rudolph's with his antlers, but like with his red nose right there. And then I kind of did a little bit of that on the sides as well. And I love the way that this gingerbread house turned out. Primarily built out of like different types of brown wool type deal. And then I've got like the bells with like the little reef going along there as well. I've got the little gingerbread houses on the outside, which house each and every one of the reindeer for Santa. So I'm one of the head elves in this area, and I take care of all of the reindeer while Santa is busy building up his appetite for Christmas Day, you know? We got tiny little dancer hanging out right there. People having snowball fights, making snowmen. This was all done on Christmas, so everybody you pretty much see in this area showed up on Christmas to get a free armor stand on the island. It was a really special day. Coming in here, this is my crib, where I have my Christmas tree and all of my presents, my little fireplace with milk and cookies and Santa. Zopa's running over to the Christmas tree with a notch apple that they're gonna put up on the top as the star. And I'm just kind of hanging out with all of my friends, just chillaxing, enjoying some nice hot chocolate like I am literally as I'm recording this video. I am enjoying a nice cup of hot chocolate. I'm a little bit of a hot chocolate fiend. There's a lot of interiors that I'm not going to show you guys, but I will show you guys a key point of interest of everything that has been brought together to make this island. I've got the Christmas candy canes. I have the, oh, that's not supposed to be open. Kind of like the holly. This was like my way of lighting up this area. Got the little water wheel house. Over here is an ice skating arena. We got some holly with a couple people playing hockey. It's figure skating, falling on their butts, opening up Christmas gifts that have dogs inside, which was a really cute little story. Over here, I have a couple little snowman houses, and up here I've got a Bavarian style house. This one's probably my favorite. This is the Pokemon house, the Pokemon market, or Pokemon daycare. Actually, we've got the Team Rocket balloon up at the top there. I've got like these bird statues on the side, so I've got this guy and that guy hanging out. Brock with Diglett hanging out. Nurse Joy with all the baby Pokemon. Misty is just back here with all of her other Pokemon, being Lapras and Magikarp, and I think there's a there's a Poliwag back there and everything. Got some garden back there, and on the inside of this, I actually have Professor Oak and a Pokemon shop. We got Ash coming up with Pikachu. This is the Pokemon Healing Center with Nurse Joy. We have Professor Oak with all of the starters. So we got the stubborn Charmander, Bulbasaur hanging out, and Squirtle. Bulbasaur's also got a Spore Blossom on his back, which I thought was pretty cool. Girl Geek, who's selling like little Pokeballs and books, secret books, and all of your Pokemon stuff that you may need in the future. But to also touch on the regions that I'm going to be building throughout my world, a Pokemon region is definitely going to be one of them. And here's a little bit of an overview of all 3 islands all together, so you can see just how much work is just in this one little condensed area. And since we're on the topic of islands, let's go check out the One Piece Island. This is the Nether Hub hallway for that One Piece Island. I've got a bunch of pirate ships. I have a little bit of a sandy beach, a fog effect that's supposed to look like water, because of course we can't have water in the Nether. And through this portal, we're going to be on the Going Merry. And in behind me, we have the portal. And to my left, we have Luffy hanging out at the captain's seat. Or maybe that's my right. That's actually my right, but my Canadian left, if you know what I mean. If you guys didn't know, I'm Canadian. So we have different lefts and right, just so you guys are all aware. I have the Going Merry with the Straw Hat Pirates hanging out over here. I need to light this thing up and actually do some work with it. But this island was heavily inspired by Sanji and the All Blue after I watched the live action over on Netflix before I got heavily into the anime. This is supposed to be a dilapidated island where I wanted to get better at building different types of ships. So I thought, what better way to get better at building ships than to start building ships into houses, essentially. And with this house, I think it's very obvious exactly what it is. It's an upside down boat and it is a bait and switch shop. So we're selling a bunch of fishing stuff right in here, so you can buy a fishing pole or whatever it may be. Across the way, we have the Walk the Plank Diner, which is kind of just like a burger drive-through area. If you're hungry, you can take your rowboat on over here, and Earl will fix you up something to eat. And then you could park your boat along this area right here. Flying on over here, I have the abandoned steamboat, which is called the Broken Drum, and it is actually a general shop where you can buy an assortment of different items down here, and that's probably an outdated map as well. I'll have to update that later on. You can buy different types of costumes, different kinds of jars of dirt. If you know, you know, who doesn't love a good jar of dirt, right? Diving suits, Davy Jones costumes, and a bunch of other things along the way. I have another kind of like tugboat kind of deal right here. This was only supposed to get me from point A to point B, so it's actually kind of just like a staircase. Same thing goes with this boat right here. It's just supposed to connect up to this upper area that takes us over to the Hidden Pearl, which is the tavern. We have Zoro hanging out and Gear 5 Luffy. In here, I have the tavern itself, where you can come in here and wet your whistle, grab yourself a nice little beverage, whatever you would like. You can kind of chill out. There's Captain Hook in there too. It's a little like Easter egg. I shouldn't even be pointing out these Easter eggs to you guys. You guys should be putting them in the comments below. The lighthouse itself is supposed to be a rundown, dilapidated, refurbished kind of lighthouse that's been built up over time as they've kind of set up a civilization. So I have a tugboat off the side that's been kind of connected, a bunch of tires. We have a little boat sign right here, which is supposed to welcome in everybody into the island area. And then people actually live inside of this lighthouse. It's supposed to be kind of like a motel, if you will. Across the way, we have the bakery. So this is the bakery, and this is the Pegasus. This is the main attraction right here. This is the restaurant that I built for Jugs. The bakery, though, I'll give you guys just a quick look at what that looks like on the inside. It's ran by the hardest worker on the island, which is Normal Guy. He doesn't have one job, but he actually has 2 jobs. He's working in 2 different places at once, which is absolutely wild. So he runs the bakery, and he also runs the Pegasus as well as one of the head chefs in the area. We'll take your coat. They'll steal your coat, and then you can kind of just sit here and enjoy some bread while you wait to be seated. It has live karaoke with Jugs and his family, just kind of hanging out. And he's got a notch apple just because, you know, the flex. Nice little shaggy carpet and some high quality seating right here where you could be an astronaut drinking some suspicious stew. Necromancer boat over here. We have a couple additional boats that I'll show you guys along the way. Coatstar is one of the people who will kind of one of the waitresses in the area. They'll bring you your food. Normal Guy, like I said, hardest worker in the area, working the oven back here. And there's actually 3 layers to this Pegasus. Up top, we have the narwhal boat. So this is supposed to be a boat with a little narwhal horn at the very end that has a private chef who is going to cook you up a nice little meal. And then as you're sitting over here, she'll not only teach you how to make those meals, but she'll also hand them over to you guys so you guys can enjoy them later. Up top, underneath the lighthouse with the little umbrella up at the very top, we have Zach, who is giving you a little bit more of an exotic experience when it comes to cuisine, which is very interesting. Another very cool thing about this island was the fact that it is heart-shaped, just like the Alice in Wonderland island I showed you guys before. I didn't really point that out, but that is also heart-shaped. So of course I had to work here, right? I have an additional boat over here with Crying Obsidian, which I think turned out phenomenal. I have the Necromancer boat way over here that I built for Flea, and it actually has a bit more of an interior that I can show you guys, which is right on in here, keeping with that purple theme, of course. And we have Flea looking into the ominous eye. We definitely don't want to right click that, otherwise we will blow up. And then they have a little bit of a enchantment setup back here. There is a shipwreck right behind the island. We have the Monarch, which is a butterfly boat with caterpillar sails. That was a little bit of a challenge to build because I've never built sails that are just supposed to be just butterflies. This is the original map of Alice in Wonderland, which is so cool to see how different it looks. And then of course she's collecting up all of the butterflies. I'll show you guys her ascension next. She is the Empress of the Metamorphosis, and she houses one of the most overpowered wither skeleton farms I have. But not before I show you guys the last boats that I've got built up over here. This is another big pirate ship heading on over towards the Pegasus. We have this boat right here that has a little bit of a rowboat at the very end, also kind of passing on by. Point Hope, which is a lighthouse that's supposed to be like a haunted lighthouse inspired by Phasmophobia that has the ghost ship in the front. I'll get into a little bit more of that in just a moment. But right here is the Dwarven Keep that basically descends down into the mountain and behind it to a giant Dwarven Empire. And I'll show you guys what that looks like right after I'm done showing you what's going on the outside of the pier area. So I've got a bunch of pirates basically looting up and trading with all of the dwarves. Who knows what they're trading for? So that's yet to be seen. Armor Cross parking his boat right here, looking up at the Dwarven Keep. He is the dwarf master. He is, well, he's not actually the dwarf master. He is the Wolf King, and this is his castle. I've got the wolf statues with like the little like fog coming off of their breath. It's supposed to be like just a little bit of movement. Over here, I've got another ship that I built for Melly. I have the plushy pirates, who are my ferrets, who live right on over here. And I guess now that it's all kind of getting a little bit more dark and gloomy, I can show you guys a little bit of a closer look at Point Hope right on over here, which is the haunted lighthouse, haunted by the Lady of the Lake. The ocean has taken her away. I call her the Lady of the Lake because that was heavily inspired by a show that I watched that I really, really loved that I can't remember the name of. But she died long, long ago. There are 3 graves right here. And this is where the sirens have been buried. So these sirens live on this rock right here, and they lure sailors to the rock in order to sink their ship, which is exactly why there is a ghost ship here. So don't listen to sirens unless it's the police. I'm talking about like real sirens and stuff like that. If it's a fire truck, an ambulance, or a police officer, probably listen to that. The Dwarven Keep is also another grayscale build that's going to descend down into the mountain, and behind it I have a redstone door that activates and opens up so we can look and see exactly where we're going to be heading. This build is extremely textured and was actually driving me kind of mad during the time of building this area. We have the wolf paw right here, the little adventure with me and Navi and Bunny kind of hanging out, whispering in my ear. I love the armor stands because I get to create so many really cool stories throughout my world that you don't really get to do any time that you're playing in your own little single player world. So I heavily suggest getting really cool microblocks and cool armor stands, and I'll put those 2 mods down below so you guys can check them out and add some more life to your world if you guys would like to do so. This is the main forge area of the Dwarven Keep. I have the giant forge right here in the center. They have the giant dwarven door back there, and this door is going to head off into an underground Dwemer civilization from Skyrim, which I think is really cool. And this door over here is going to be more to do with like mages and giant creatures being enchanted behind doors so they don't take over the world. So think of like kind of like world-ending dragons and such. Got a dark effect going all the way around this area just to make this like little like peninsula stand out a little bit better. And it looks like I have a bit of a slime chunk down there, so I'm not sure exactly where those guys are spawning in at. Armor Cross is working the forge with his mace, crafting up some really cool knives and blades. We got Normal Guy just writing a report because he likes to be Bob, the Creeper Inspector, inspecting all of my builds to ensure that they're safe. Newsflash, they're never safe. Speaking of never safe, I accidentally trimmed my chunks one time for an update, and I got rid of over 50 different masons. So eventually in the Dwarven Keep, I'm going to have over 100 masons that I can trade with. That way I can obtain things such as different building blocks, but more importantly, quartz blocks and quartz pillar blocks, which are very, very expensive to do otherwise. Flying out of here is one of my favorite things to do just because I really love the cascading like staircase, and then closing up the door is always so freaking satisfying watching that thing work every dang time because I'm just so talented when it comes to redstone. But not only am I incredibly talented, very tall, and incredibly chiseled because I have fully dug out this nether perimeter, which I will be showing you guys. That houses my gold farm, my wither skeleton farm, my froglight farm, and much more. Welcome to Motham City. So this entire area, as I stated before, was hand dug every single day for months on end. And it took probably, I think it was 120,000 blackstone in order to do all the walls and the ceiling to create that really cool nighttime effect. This build is obviously nowhere close to being completed, but I have a very cool concept. Looking at the build, you guys can see that I have two sides of the city. I have the upper class that live up top near Arc Labs, and then I have the lower class that live down near the Chrysalis Laboratory, and I'm going to divide this up. This place was heavily inspired by Arcane. If you guys have seen Arcane, they have the two cities. One, I think is called Zon, and the other one I cannot remember the name of, but they basically split it up when it comes to upper and middle class kind of deal. So this is Motham. Right here on the left, I have a greenhouse that has a science experiment that has gone terribly wrong with a bunch of vines coming out of the roof. I have a bunch of stray cats in boats that I'm going to have running around here eventually. We have the creaking tree experiment that has not gone well in the slightest. Over here, we have the Last Drop Tavern in front of the Froglight Farm. These cradles, I think, turned out absolutely fantastic, and that these things, they kind of look like bats in a way to kind of give off that Motham vibe. On the inside of the Last Drop, I don't think I have anything. I was going to put a storage room for all of the honey and whatnot, because there is a honey farm back there, which is why I built the Last Drop. It was supposed to be like where I got my mead, and in order to make mead, you need honey and all that fun stuff. I have these banners to signify all the different frog lights. Right here is the storage room for all of the frog lights correspondingly. And then I have the honeycomb, and sometimes I'll even get myself some magma blocks if I'm lucky. We have the farms themselves, so honeycomb on this side, and then I have the honey farm right on over here on this side. Probably just had to load up some of those bottles. The overreaching theme of Motham City is it's supposed to do with science. So the Empress of the Metamorphosis is doing a lot of different science experiments, studying different creatures, and then the way they basically react to different things in the world, and kind of just wanting to know a little bit more about them. So this one is a science experiment to do with bees and pollinating the underground spore blossoms. What happens to the bees? Do they go mad? I don't know. The floor, I think, turned out pretty damn cool using the copper bulbs and the lightning rods. And by lightning rods, I mean end rods. And then everything in here is pretty much full of frog lights. We have the frog light farm at the very bottom of the world because mobs will just spawn a little bit more frequently the lower in Y elevation they are. Hex Labs. Well, Hex Labs probably houses the most overpowered Wither skeleton farm to date. And here's a clip of it running. So that is called the Whiskey Train, and it is so overpowered. I will never run out of coal blocks, bone blocks, wither skulls, or even levels in the future. But I did mention there's multiple farms in here. How do they all run at the same time? Well, they don't actually. They all have a toggle on and off switch. So the Froglight farm has an off switch. Inside here, I have lava blades that cut through the farm in order to completely turn off the Wither skeleton farm as well. And then down over here at the gold farm, which I've yet to show you guys, right over here on the right, I have a way of completely turning off this farm using lava to shut down the platforms so I won't get any more of the zombified piglins spawning in place. So if I click this guy right here, all of the lava gets pushed out to the very ends, which takes up all of the spawning spaces for all of the zombified piglins. But as of right now, I want to have this active because obviously I don't need any more frog lights. I don't need the Wither skeleton farm running because, well, I don't AFK, so it's not going to do me any good. So I want to have the gold farm going as much as I possibly can have it going. When it comes down to the gold farm design, grayscale, of course, one of my favorite build styles, and I think it turned out pretty damn cool. But what good is a gold farm if you don't have a bartering farm? Over here, I have some cool stepping down cat statues, supposed to be symbolic of Amanda's cats, Oscar and Cricket right here. And then we go up the staircase in the middle, where I'm going to be expanding this area to have a big, giant, run-down, dilapidated city back there. The sewer that's going to cascade down here and create a little bit of a sewage area down below. And then the bartering farm that I have right here, ran by Benzo, which is supposed to be kind of like a pawn shop. You put your gold in here, you send it off, and it goes to the piglins back here, which of course throw all of their loot, which get collected by hoppers, which go through an automatic storage unit and gets sorted down here in this not so shady alley. And I have another piglin brute named Brutus, who's a security guard down here and make sure that everything is well taken care of. And as you guys can see, there is a plethora of different resources that obviously go through the bartering farm. And of course, I also have the happy gas or the dried gas set along at the very end, and then a little bit of a overflow if I need it. And last but not least, we have the chrysalis. There's a lot of interiors going on in here, and right in here is where Amanda hangs out, and there's quite a few things to show in here. So Amanda, being the Empress of the Metamorphosis, is symbolic of a little bit of a change, not of just butterflies, but the Vex. Vex going from evil, not so evil, into a good little Ole. And it's supposed to be like she is a good Ole that wants to do good through science, but doesn't really know exactly how to. I have the moth in the floor, the Venus flytrap catching the flies, kind of like a Walter White reference right there. The cosmic whale hanging out. I have this toxic irradiated fish, the deep fish, little angler fish right there, varmints from the depths of the ground, and then Mickey, which is somebody who she really loved and cherished in life that she wanted to kind of pay a little bit of respects to. We have the beholder behind the glass with myself and Navi doing a little bit of research on it, trying to see exactly what it is and how we can protect different civilizations from it in the future. I have a deconstructed netherite beacon. If you put all of these pieces together, it is a fully functioning netherite beacon. I don't want to hear it. I did make a fully functioning netherite beacon in my world. I just deconstructed it and turned it into a chandelier because I'm cool like that. In this area over here, I have a cloning facility. So I have an All-A holding my enchanted mace. I have Stitch escaping the laboratory. And I have Mew being cloned. They're slightly different if you look at their faces. So it's not a perfect replication. And then we have Ditto, which is kind of like the mistake that happened in the laboratory. Behind me, we have Mandolin with something very ominous going on. So who knows what she's going to be cloning, especially as the master of puppets. And lastly, I have the cow facility, but not just any ordinary cow facility. This is the cow facility to see if cows have a symbiotic relationship or a parasitic relationship with mushrooms, and exactly how that relationship happens. So we're trying to figure out exactly which cow is the best cow for the mushrooms to become a host of. There's the too hot of a cow, there's the perfect temperature tempered cow, and then we have the cold cow. So the story behind these mushroom cows is they were tempered cows. The mushrooms don't really survive in a very cold environment, and they don't really do well in a hot environment either. So we're just doing a little bit of research to see if it is a symbiotic relationship or if it's a parasitic relationship. Does it hurt the cows or does it help the cows? At the end of the day, what is going on with these cows? Hold on. What is going on back here? I don't know if these guys are just stuck. All right, let's let those guys out. So that's Mussolina, and then we've got Portobello, which is or Portobolo. Hopefully these guys don't get out. There it is. And then we got some like sciencey stuff on this table. We have a hazmat suit just in case it's a parasitic relationship. We don't want to be infecting ourselves out here now, do we? People doing research on the cows themselves. And then just other like little science aspects throughout the area. But I have big plans for this area in store for all of you guys. So hopefully you guys will stick around. If you haven't done so, of course, leave a like if you guys are enjoying the world tour. And hopefully I can help inspire you guys when it comes to stories in Minecrafts and obviously the builds you could do within it. Minecrafts. Yeah, that's a word. Another big part of my nether is the nether hub itself. I have over 12 different tunnels that all link up to this central hub right here, where I have this big, beautiful chandelier, the 4 wardens up in the cages in each corner of the area. We have the shrieker with the echoing effect holding up the portal itself. And then we have these big, giant, ominous statues kind of looking into this area. This is supposed to be life and death. And I kind of showcased that around the nether hub by having the hearts slowly depleting as we go all the way around the nether hub. And then, of course, the dinner bone one because, you know, Minecraft, and why not until you're fully dead. But why is it symbolic of life and death? Well, within this shrieker, we actually have a basement to the nether hub, which houses the contract of life. The contract of life is how I earn back totems in my world. I don't just throw on new totems. As I stated before, it's been over 3 years since I used my last totem. And if this one pops, then I have to earn the right in order to hold another one. In the floor, you'll see I've got a couple mobs just running around in there. This was built for Sam and systematically the Queen of the Damned and the King of Crossroads, where I have to basically strike a deal in order to earn the chance to hold another totem. I have a little bit of a crypt with everybody that sleeps inside of there. We have the dark heart back there, the upside down ghast up in the ceiling. And right back here, is where the contract of life is. We have all of the ghosts spilling out of the portal, the Empress of the Metamorphosis trading in her soul to hopefully become good and rule over Motham. And right on in here is where we actually have all of this stuff. So a lot of this is subject to change, especially because raids are much easier than what they used to be. So I'll probably be doing something a little bit more challenging, or I'll be reworking my raid coliseum. I don't have a raid farm in the world, so I do fight them inside one big giant coliseum. They're not easy, but they are kind of boring, you know? So I want to spice it up a bit. Down here, we have a dungeon filled with a bunch of Halloween jack-o'-lantern skeletons that are all lefties, except for this guy, of course, because that's the one I looked at. But this guy should be a lefty. They're all throughout this little dungeon. In here is just a little bit more of a dungeon. You don't want to get kept up in there, I'll tell you that. Over here to the right, I think this is where the library is. Yep, this is the library. So this is the Archives of the Dead, where we have Bunny kind of just chillaxing in here as the dark version of herself, by the way. She's not wearing a white head, she's wearing the skulkified rabbit. But this is the Archives of the Dead. And then over here, we have a morgue where we can embalm people on this table. There is the cremation area right here. Little coffee station. Hazard area. So hazardous waste goes in there. Then you can wash your hands. Inside some of these things, there's like little like pop-up creatures and stuff. Which was really fun to do. Airline's supposed to be a bat, just kind of batting around. And that's the inside of the Nether Hub. One day above my chandelier, I would love to build like maybe a compass to point in every cardinal direction. That way I can't get turned around in this area, because it is pretty easy to get quickly turned around. Behind these statues is where we connect up all of the builds. This one will go out to one of my ocean monuments. I have 2 of them in the world. This one will go over to my Fox Island. That's the iron farm, so on and so forth. So I guess while we're on the topic of dark, let's go visit the Skulklands. The Skulklands is part of a mega terraforming project where I'm transforming the entire mesa into different regional biomes. And this one is the Skulklands, where we're going to start things off at the Dark Castle, right on over here with the dead elder dragon that lays before it, that was defeated many years ago. This elder dragon god was not a good one, so it had to die, unfortunately, and cannot rule any longer. But when we get over to the Dragon Mountain, I'll explain a little bit more of the lore behind this dragon. Inside the ribcage, I have 2 Ravagers. I have tried to collect as many mobs as I possibly could to go inside the Dark Castle. Way up there, I've got an Elder Guardian who hangs out in the middle of that focal point, and then I have a Warden up in that tower as well. Inside the skull, I've got some skeleton horses. I have blazes or active braziers in the front of the castle itself. This is supposed to be like kind of like a Warden chest with all of the souls. You're probably wondering how these guys are not shooting me. Well, they have glass panes in their heads, so they're unable to actually see me, which is a really cool trick. I have a blaze, or a breeze, if you will, not a blaze, but a breeze hanging out right on over there. Very easy to move. Had a very fun time doing that. Wasn't difficult in the slightest. And here's a little bit of a view of the Dark Castle itself. It used just an incredible amount of anvils in order to build this thing. So I have anvils every single block all the way up, and then every other block I have even more anvils. This was back when I was just trying to push myself to become a more detailed builder, but also I have an iron farm, so why not? This is the mob train. This mob train is going to connect up to the Frostlands Observatory Iron Farm area and is going to connect over to my city in across the way over there, which will slowly make our way over there eventually. But as it gets dark, let's take a look at the inside of the castle too, because there's a bunch of really cool mobs that live within here as well. I have, of course, the Wither skeleton with the pumpkin head on, all of the wolves, zombified villagers. Over here, I have all of the cats, a charged creeper up in the cage, the train over here. I have a sniffer being transported. The engine of the train turned out pretty damn cool as well. It's got a very cool gothic vibe. And I have a witch who lives inside of this train named Ozzy, for Crazy Train. If you know, you know. The next card on over, we're transporting polar bears. Then we have all lays. And finally, we have the camels as well. And then, of course, the baby camel to go alongside with them. Grab some more rockets. This floor is very, very unique. I wanted to kind of use kelp a little bit and see exactly what I can come up with. And I actually really do love this floor. Used up tons of mangrove, lots of smithing tables up in the ceiling, and lots of mud as the backdrop behind a lot of these walls. Over here, I have the creaking, who's kind of just hanging out, and a half diamond skeleton right there. I almost got lucky. This guy is probably about 5 years old. Crazy how old that guy is. This is a mural of the Warden's story. The Warden's supposed to be looking up at the overworld in almost like a guardian of the underground kind of vibe, with his wife, his children, his eggs. Kind of has a job to do, but is portrayed as an evil or very scary creature when really it's just trying to protect what's inside of its city. I've got a couple other additional mobs in here, which are all the baby variants holding tridents. The panda hanging out right there. This is the apple tree, which will be connected to a like a build that I'll show you guys a little bit later, but it should have all the parrots within the tree, just kind of scattered along here. Up top, I have a shulker that has gotten out from the shulker exhibit that I have right in behind this glass. I have zoglins over here to the right with the nether mural, with the bastion, the basalt delta, the nether waste up top with the piglins, and then the blazes kind of hanging out with the zoglins. Blitz, who is the mob boss, hanging out on his throne, which looks very cool. I have a fake wither, a left-handed wither skeleton, and an upside down phantom right up in the ceiling, which actually wasn't too difficult to move in here. I just had to move him in through a tunnel. And now moving along to the factory over here, which was inspired by Fallout. It's supposed to be a rundown, dilapidated, refurbished factory that I built for Heyman. This houses my concrete farm, which I'll show you guys exactly how that works in just a little bit. But we have a rundown crane right here where the cable has busted and this cargo crate thingy has fallen down and broken the bridge, or the fence, if you will. If I can articulate words right now, that'd be awesome. Where some of the creatures have gotten out. These creatures were going to be heading over to Motham City to be experimented on, or have they already been experimented on and now have infected and have been released into the world? That is yet to be discovered. Taupe was not so fortunate, definitely got crushed, and then he's got his brother over here trying to help him out. Up top, we have an additional train, but this one's more of a freight train design that is lugging around a bunch of gravel and sand, because this is obviously the concrete farm, but also what parkour world would I have if I wasn't flexing how much deep slate coal I had in my world alongside with additional blocks? I have a gross and grimy bats in here with all of the algae and people dying and weird looking creatures. Amanda's over here, of course, studying it, and I guess gamers looking to take a dip. On the inside of the factory, I actually have a ton of different farms. The cactus farm, 2 kelp farms, a dripstone farm, and it all gets collected into this central area right here. I think maybe we have some additional stuff up top. There you go. A bamboo farm with a auto crafter in behind this wall that auto crafts it all into actual bamboo blocks. Very nice to have. Over here is the concrete farm itself. I have the cocoa bean farm, and I have a lava bucket farm. So I just come in here, I grab a bucket, I fly up here, and I load up all of the buckets with all the lava, and then they kind of just drips down and refills from the top. I think with this design, I think it's a shifting design. I can't really exactly remember how this works. I don't even know if I know where the button's at. I think it's over here. Yeah, I flick that button, and basically we get about 20,000 freaking... We get all this. We got all that cocoa bean. So that's a lot of cocoa bean action. Up here is the actual, well, actually, we're probably going to be wanting to be up here a little bit more. This is the concrete farm. I don't TNT duplicate, so I have to essentially create a system over here to pretty much time out the TNT. I craft up a bunch of TNT, load it on up into the dispenser. That dispenser then dispenses the TNT that lands on this obsidian platform, blows up all the concrete. Concrete gets collected by all these hoppers right here, and then I just collect all the concrete through the hopper system down below. In the future, I want to be building up more and more auto crafting areas. So I want to be auto crafting like anvils and doors and trap doors or whatever it may be. And that's exactly what this silo is going to house. I know it looks very, very ugly. That's because, well, we have ugly looking things back here. This is the silverfish farm using the allays. I thought it was very nifty. So of course I had to build one in my world. To go alongside with the silverfish farm, I also have a farm for weaving as well. So if I can get down here without falling into every single cobweb, I don't think that's possible. I built a little bit of a spider hole. And inside of this spider hole actually is where I found, let me show you guys, 4 spider spawners, all within the vicinity of me just hanging out right here for them all to be activated. I will shoot each and every single one of these target blocks to activate the farm. I have a water bucket so I can kind of push the spiders off the platform and kind of accumulate them over time. And then I hit them with the weaving potion, and these armadillos used to be tethered to the fence posts in behind the walls just to keep the spiders off the walls, which worked out pretty well for quite a while, but unfortunately it didn't work for that long. This is all tinted glass, that's why it looks a little bit different with like the diagonal streaks. I have a science experiment gone horribly wrong when it comes to gene splicing spiders and bees, so keep track of that because I got a big build coming up that I'm going to elaborate on a little bit on in the future. But this is exactly where a lot of that science really started to come together in the very beginning. So I really love the way that this turned out. Started to lose my words there for a little bit. Kind of recuperated a little bit, got myself a glass of tea, and I'm back at it. This is the Dragon Volcano. This is going to be a volcanic biome. It used to be where I used to collect up all of my sand. If you look back there, there's like no sand in this area. This is probably one of my favorite castles that I've built just because it's so flippin' unique being at the very, very top of a volcano. When do you ever see that? But there's a reason behind that. Let's start right here at the very tippity top of the bridge here. where we have a statue, which is an offering for a fire resistance if you need it. We have 3 different dragons that we see right out the gate. This dragon coming in for a landing on the bridge. These 2 dragons, the blue dragon and the red dragon, just kind of soaring on by. I guess they're more technically wyverns since they don't have like front limbs and that their arms are connected to their wings. These ones just look better, and honestly, in my opinion. But here's a side profile. The eye that I did for this dragon is by far probably one of my favorite eyes I've ever done for a dragon, using the fence post to kind of create that lizard snake-like appearance of the dragon, which I think just turned out very, very well. And then I did the candles for this guy, and I also did the candles for his teeth as well, so it wasn't so crazy jagged. But got the amethyst wings coming in for the landing. Very cool. This egg right here is tied to the elder dragon that I just showed you in front of the dark castle back there. Every 100 years, this egg hatches. And it hatches into a elder dragon that is going to either be really good or really bad for the world. We have Zen, who's a little bit of a wizard, taking care of the egg itself, so who knows exactly where that will go. And then on both sides, I have a dragon market, because the idea is in this dragon market, they are selling dragon eggs where you can hatch them in different environments to get different types of dragons. So for example, if I was to buy this dragon egg and I was to go to a cold biome, well, I would get ice dragons, which you guys will see a little bit later on. I have a little bit of a potion shop over here. So we got dragon's breath and everything there. And on this side, I just have even more market stands selling more dragon stuff along the way, which I really like the way this all came together. And I love the story, and I can't wait to see it develop from here. As for the castle itself, we have Dandelion, who's wrapping around the castle. This is an Eastern dragon, so it's not like it has big giant wings or anything like that. But this was my very first Eastern dragon, and I think it went pretty well. Did the same sort of thing with the eye. I gave it actually 2 eyes, so I just gave it a little bit of a bigger eyeball than the other dragons. And I gave it the slit, and then I did the bamboo on the back side of it. And this is where Dragon Dan hangs out at his castle, looking down off of the volcano at what's going to be the kingdom. Oh my god, that's a creeper. Yeah, we don't want to get blown up out here. This was actually a perfect time, because as I was building up the dragon volcano, so the resin blocks came to be, which really helped out with a lot of the volcanic stuff going on here, because obviously I'm not going to fill every single area with lava, but looking at it from a distance, it looked like I did. Very cool. Love the way that turned out. Did a little bit of the texturing on the way down the volcano as well, as we're kind of descending on in here. And on the inside of the volcano, I actually have a bunch of industrial farms that are way too big and way too ugly to hide inside other builds. Right now, I only have one, which is the mushroom stem farm, which helped me out tremendously when it came down to making the Alice in Wonderland island a thing, because that took a tremendous amount of mushroom stems. I just load this thing up, sit in here, chop all of the mushroom stems. It all gets auto collected and filtered into the system. So that is the Skulllands, and we're going to slowly transition into the Masa, which is where my base is located. I'm going to be building one more ascension right here, and then I'm going to be terraforming everything up as I go. I'm going to be finally building up my bridge right here that's going to connect into this graveyard, and I've been saying that for well over, I think over 5 years now, that I've always wanted to connect a bridge going across there. I think this was my second Halloween build that I ever built in the world. right here. This is supposed to be like a little graveyard. We have the bridge. This is the Badlands biome. So everything you see here, I have basically built. I put all the moss here. I put all of the water here. Of course, I put all the trees, the floating islands, everything. This used to just basically be a desert back in the day. And as you can see, I have tried my best to bring everything to life over time, where it all started, which was right here, the dojo. This was my very first episode where I built my very first circle in Minecraft, and I've lived here ever since. This used to be all just cyan terracotta, but I have switched it over to tuff to kind of give it a little bit of a facelift. This entire area has actually gone a facelift over time. So coming out of the dojo, we have the dragon head being slayed by the wolf right there. My skin, just a couple little houses to kind of take up some space. And I have just done my best when it comes to terraforming out the area. Little bit of a horse stable back there. The creeper farm is underneath. It's really nothing really special to look at. I'll show you guys that on the way back and where it gets all collected up into the storage area and whatnot. I've already said I don't AFK in this world, so having the creeper farm in behind my storage room is actually a really good way to have it. I do spend a lot of time in the storage area, and it just makes it a little bit easier for me to obtain gunpowder. This is just like kind of like a little Great Lakes house chilling right here. We're gonna have a giant waterfall in behind me that we're gonna transform into what I'm gonna call Viking Bay. And I've already got a Viking ship on its way over here into the Viking area, and I'm gonna be basically transporting everything from here all the way across. And I'm going to be redoing bits and pieces of my base as well. We have a giant world tree right there. That's not like an insanely massive world tree, but it's the biggest tree I've ever made. So that's fun. Down here, we have Halfling Hills, which is inspired by the Lord of the Rings with all the hobbits. So we got Gandalf. He's got his cart right up in here. Every single one of these little hobbit houses does have a full interior, which I'm definitely not going to show you guys just for the sake of this video not being 6 hours long. More hobbit houses over there. Oh, and of course, we're growing potatoes and carrots, and these are supposed to be giant potatoes because hobbits love their potatoes. Little bit of a fountain right over there. The ring that is being found within this little pond by Freya. More hobbit houses. Up above, we have a giant ship, which we'll get into here in just a second, that has dropped its anchor. I was actually supposed to get rid of that anchor because I already have an anchor up there. I was playing around with some stuff, but we got a little picnic area if you want to kind of have a little picnic in this area. Wheelbarrows and all the fun stuff, the wells and everything. This is the inside of the dojo, just a little bit more lively greenery. It descends down into the like kind of like the start of where my base is going to begin. This is the gifting hall. Everybody who has basically helped me go full-time and maintain full-time throughout all of these years, so I can create each and every single one of these cool projects that you guys see every day. So big shout out to everyone who's in here and everybody who's also watching this video. Thank you. If you're here and you're listening right now, put a 1 in the comments below and I'll know you're listening. Over here is where we actually connect up to the gunpowder farm. One of my very first tunnels that I have ever built in Minecraft, with the collection area that I basically fill up with all the gunpowder that gets collected into this double chest. It is a logical Geek Boy design and it works wonders. Right there, just pop that back and then I just fill up all these boxes. I have a little bit of a shortcut tunnel behind here that is where I craft up all of my rockets. So this is like an auto crafter for rockets, auto crafter for TNT, and then various other auto crafters for various other things. Down below is where my storage room is. So this is where all of the magic happens. There's quite a bit to unpack here. So it's divided into 2 levels. This level down here where everything is hand sorted, and then everything up here that is automatically sorted, and I'll even have a corresponding lamp that will turn off to tell you exactly what is going through the system and when it's going through the system. I of course have the iconic fog effect cutting through the storage area. I have these overflow silos where if I ever run out of space in the auto sorter, I can sort more and more items. This is the shulker unloader right on over here, where I'll load up a bunch of the shulkers up top and it will dispense down below. Those shulkers will then return into this chest right here. And then the overflow of anything that I either don't have space for or don't sort will go into this area. And then everything will get dispensed into lava. Very important, lava and not cactus, just in case I accidentally throw one of my netherite pieces of armor in there. This is a trash can, so anything I put in there will just get dispensed into the trash. I do collect mobs, so I got a bunch of different mobs. This was actually a baby pink sheep, which was a little bit more rare than finding a pink sheep. More of the blocks on this side going all the way down. You guys can see I've got the corresponding glass, concrete, terracotta, and wool all the way down there. Brown mushroom, guardian, old diamond zombie that I found over 100,000 blocks away from my base. That was crazy. That creeper farm is right in behind this wall, and my sugarcane farm is actually right on over here in behind this wall. And you guys can see that the light just turned on. That means that we have sugarcane coming in through the system. That is a Tango Tech design, and it works absolute wonders. Coming in down here, we have the diamond chandeliers in the ceiling. I have an anvil basically stacked on top of one another for renaming things. I have a Hylian heart here in the center. Love the way that turned out. And then I have some iconic figures throughout my storage room who have basically helped me along the way. So Cupvan was the very first single player world tour I ever watched that inspired me to create my own. Impulse is a humongous supporter of my channel over on the Twitch, raids me all the time. Wanted to show my appreciation, so I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Scar is just an inspiration on so many different levels. And then Etho, of course, doesn't need no introduction, being one of the pioneers of Minecraft for all of us. Within these corridors, this is where I hand sort a lot of my items. So I've got a lot of my empty shulker boxes for projects, as you guys can see, are indicated on the hanging sign through a mod. I'll see if I can remember to link that in the description below. So if you guys are interested in putting cool items inside of here, you guys can do that. I have all of these. Basically, I have little cellars down here where if I have an abundance of resources that need to be sorted, I'll put it down inside of these cellars, and that's in every single corridor. This place was completely revamped during the Copper Age, or not Copper Age, but the Trial Chamber update, where they released a bunch of different types of variations of copper. I have all of the wolves scattered along here, crafting areas, like pretty much every single music disc in the game, all within there. More of the wolves. I don't have beacon effects over here, so I'm all uber slow. Charge creeper right here and here, where they charge up all of my beacons in the world. And then these corridors just basically meander on through my entire storage room. But that's not it. There's actually one hidden area. So I mentioned earlier, I do not use Limatica and I don't do any creative planning. So what I do is I build within this warehouse. If I need to kind of figure out a floor plan, a wall design, a roof design, whatever it may be, I can do that right here in my testing facility, right underneath my storage rooms. So the abundance of blocks that I can use are not that far away. But that is my storage room for the most part, in my base, where I do a lot of my figuring out what I want to do with pallets and everything like that. This is the front of the dojo, and up top I have my mushroom stem farm. Well, at least the first one I built, where I have the flying ship that is bringing all of the mushroom islands over to my masa. This was the very first time that I ever took on building the sails of a ship. Some of the sails aren't even connected to anything, but does it matter? No, this was my first time doing it, and I think I've definitely improved along the way. We have big giant mushrooms being transported, mushrooms, of course. Up top, we have some of the islands. So this tree in particular was my very first kind of coniferous tree that I ever built in the world. And this was a pretty big turning point. This took me about 3 hours to do, and I was losing my mind on stream slowly. And this guy has the audacity to try to cut it down. Can you believe that guy? What an absolute jerk face. I got some of the dead pines down here, some little like pine cones and stuff. Down at the actual ship, there's a lot of stuff to see here. So we're going to start at the... we'll start down here so I can kind of showcase a little bit of the idea. The 3 pigs, the mama pig, the baby pigs, are something that's very, very special to Maddie, the one who I built this for. Sorry, I had a hiccup. We got the seed vault. This is the old map of the Masa, which is absolutely crazy to see right now. I think I may have accidentally updated one of the maps though. Yeah, I think it was this map where I completely messed that up. I need to pick these things up and I need to lock them. That way I can always look at them in the future. Mushroom Island with a couple little mushroom cows. We have the spruce biome with a little like castle and people who hanging out. Little Wookiee in there, or Ewok, sorry. The floating islands in the back, which I'm definitely going to be making more of, so don't worry. Going to be definitely making more, especially with the happy gas being out now. I have one right on over there and another one right there as well. Coming on down, we have the captain's quarters. This is where Maddie and her whole entire family basically hang out. Right here, got the mushrooms, the moo blooms hanging out, her and her family. And she wanted a bed for every single one of her family members, which was super adorable. Very cute. And then we have like kind of like a world compass right here, giving all the cardinal directions on where to go in the ship. And then inside of the piglet, we have, of course, the storage room for all of the mushrooms that I don't have. Got all these guys, nothing in there. Got a little bit of that, and that's pretty much the most of it, I think. Little floor design right here. I like that a lot. This is where I'll do all of my hand chopping for all the mushroom blocks. And then behind these storage containers is actually where the mushroom stem farm is. Behind here, I just basically sit here, let that bone meal up, go up this area, chop down all of the top bits of the mushroom. All those mushroom stems will then get pushed along here and then put into a big giant block, and I'll farm them up. Speaking of farms, we have the god of agriculture going on back there as the seed vault kind of takes up a little bit of that horizon, which I would absolutely hate to lose that view, you know? Which is why I haven't actually built anything here. I don't know exactly what I want to build here because I really don't want to lose that view. Got a little campsite right on over here where people are going to be hanging out. The lighthouse, the shipwreck, looking up at the islands with all the water cascading down. I just love this area so very much. We're going to be taking a look at George's build right there in just a second. I got to show you guys this little wheat field that I've got going on over here with a little farmer house, little wheat field, the little silos, and of course the lighthouse itself. And then this is the upper part of that wheat field. I've got a couple additional little farmhouses right here, a giant autumn tree that's just spanning out over the wheat field. You can see the dark castle off in the distance. This used to be a barn back in the day, and that used to be like a little food silo way back when. Underneath here, I have the very first sheep farm that I ever built in the world. And it also is where I used to make all of my banners as well. Right here, I have the rainbow and the dark void right there with the clouds that is supposed to be kind of passing by the rainbow. I think it still does work. I just think I need to pretty much fill it with all of the shears. And of course, we have Jeb, who is the CEO and helps run this place and keeps things orderly. I have a couple banners out on display with like different kinds of flags and all the really cool things that you can basically make happen in Minecraft. A lot of these were from Planet Minecraft, so if you guys want to learn how to build really cool banners, I definitely recommend checking out Planet Minecraft because they have pretty much a design for everything. And now over to George's. So George's build was a massive turning point when it came to terraforming on my channel. I really wanted to push myself, and I thought everything here turned out absolutely fantastic. I used a ton of tuff, and I tried blending in like coal and deep slay and all of that different types of textures to kind of give it a little bit more of a story. So I have got some little bit of diorite that's been washed up from all the salt from the ocean. I got these little spires coming up out of the water that are supposed to be like very, very wet. All the chickens, honey that's just like coming out of that hole right there. George's boat, which I think turned out pretty dang nifty. Got some really cool colors going on with this thing. Lots of fences, lots of sails, lots of things going on. As we walk on up, you can kind of take in the like cascading cliffs, I guess you could say. And I've just tried to pack in as much detail as I possibly could into the area where I even have a little bit of a salmon run going all the way up. We've got a blossom tree over there. And if we come into this area, we actually have a little family that is fishing for salmon along the way. So a bear teaching its little one how to basically catch salmon so they can get all fat and sassy for the winter. And all of those salmon are making their way all the way up to this point, which is right underneath the aqueducts or aquifer. Sorry, aqueducts was right, actually. Underneath the aqueduct where the water is cascading in from, where we can see that we have like beavers and all that fun stuff. Up top, I have this bird I call the plork. So it's a pelican slash stork that brings bounty throughout the lands, bringing in pumpkins and hay bales. In behind it, I have the sniffer pen where, I don't know if you guys have noticed, none of the sniffers stayed inside. Not sure exactly what happened there, but it happened. I have 3 of these plorks though. Not all of them are bringing bounty to the land. So we got that one, and this one right here, which I really like the way that they're kind of positioned in the build. And I plan to add more of those guys throughout my world just to kind of tie in a little bit more of that lore. I have this big giant waterfall that's been split up into a bunch of different directions coming off of this like little coliseum area with the blossom tree in the middle. And we're going to slowly make our way up into the seed vault itself before it gets super dark and we get blown up by a creeper, because I didn't really light this build up the best I possibly could. Little bit of parkour on the way on up. And of course, we're going to nail it first try every try because I'm talented like that. Walking on into the seed vault, there's a lot of different lore that I've tried to introduce. So inside the dark castle where that apple tree is, that's where the apple is from. The great Deku seed will be a world tree that I will take on one day in my world and hopefully succeed at building a massive mega tree. I have these other seeds that are going to be part of a mega build in the future. And then I have these seeds right on over here. I want to build instead of like a world tree, I want to build like a world mushroom. A big giant world mushroom that is housing basically a giant super terraformed fungal land. A full diamond zombie that I got during building the whole seed vault thing, hanging out, named Sir George McFancy Pants III. And then he's got his friend, Squire Dogfish. George sits upon his throne, and then he's got his two sniffers, Sniffalotagus, and this guy, which is, wait, what? Sniffalotagus and Sniffalittlegus. Oh my gosh. I completely forgot about that. I'm not gonna lie. This is why you can't let Twitch chat name stuff, because the puns go hard. The puns go hard. Oh my god. I gotta save this guy. I've never seen this. This guy looks absolutely terrified to be inside the water. I'm so sorry. Get out. Get out. Oh my god. Holy frick, dude. You look like you've seen a ghost. And then he goes right back into the water. Are you kidding me? Okay, get out of the freaking... Get. This is not how I thought the city tour was gonna go, but this is just how the city tour is going. Oh, there seems to be a water block. Let me pop that there. Yeah, get out of here, please. I just saved a pig's life. So if that's not worthy of a like, then I don't know what is. And now that there are no more distractions in the area, I can show you guys the city district. So it's split up into two big major streets. Down here, which has a lot of industrial farms, and then down here as well, which has not as many industrial farms, but it has a little bit of a newer facelift with my newer build style. I started to build a lot of these buildings as soon as the new update came out with the pale wood. So that would be the creaking update. This is a bed shop selling beds. It's called Bed, Blankets, and Beyond. And of course, we're just selling beds in here with a bunch of plushies. Through here, well, actually above here, this is the Christmas crane. So we spent a couple Christmases in this city. We have the Christmas train, where you guys probably recognize the gingerbread houses and probably know where those are going, which is right on over there to Bunny's Island, the Alice in Wonderland area. I have a convenience store, which I really like the way that like some of the lights are on, but not all of the lights are on. I think that kind of brings a little bit of life to it. A little bit of a fire escape on the side, made these little like signs. The Daily Squeaks, which is kind of like the paper media company in this area. Oh, and we also have like pigeons who are eating some food on the side of the road. Can't go to a city without having pigeons, you know? This is just like the convenience store where we're selling a bunch of like just normal goods. Next up, I have the banner shop. I really love mangrove. I wish it wasn't such a pain in order to farm lots of it. I will be building a giant tree farm in the future, so I am able to build a little bit more with mangrove because I really enjoy like using bricks. I like the spruce, and then you just add mangrove into all that. Bruh, so beautiful. But I display a bunch of my banners in this area. I have all of my templates as well. And then I just kind of keep whatever extra banners, try to organize them as I go. I've got, oh, nope, there's nothing in there. Cauldrons to wash the banners if I ever make a mistake. Just keep extra banners just kicking around in here. We got the sus banners, of course. We'll get into the toy factory in just a bit, but right on over here is the sheep farm. This sheep farm produces well over 3,000 wool per hour. This thing is the fastest sheep farm I was able to find in such a small, confined area. I have every single color. Every single color is tied to a module up top, where we have like 24 sheep, and it just kind of produces an absurd amount of wool. And then I've got like an overflow. This is an organic pink sheep. I guess I got that on Halloween. But I've got all of the lighter colors on this side. And then on the side across the street are all the darker colors. So I can display everything in here. The really cool thing about this sheep farm, which I don't know what's going on here. Let me look at this. So there definitely should be some wool coming in through this module. I don't understand where it's going exactly. But the cool thing about this sheep farm in particular is I have about 24 sheep in a single cell. They will eat the grass, and then I have a bone mealing system back there so they can eat grass pretty much twice as fast. Bone meal goes up top, and then I've got my shears right here, which seem like they're working, so everything should be collecting. I might have to take a little bit of a further look into this. I'm not quite sure exactly where the wool is going here. Oh, you know what? Actually, I just saw some black wool coming in down here, and it is actually working. I'm an idiot. It was just filtering in through here. I think I checked this box, and this box, but I didn't check this box like a doofus. But it also doubles as a flower farm, which is an added benefit to using this sheep farm, which I really enjoy. Over here on my right, we have the daily squeaks, and then on the left, I have my Phasmophobia shop. If you play that game, then that game will be pretty nostalgic to you guys. This is the Daily Squeaks van, so it's supposed to be like little buck teeth, the little ears. This is their news mobile, so they can kind of like film news throughout the area. We got a couple going in there right now to go to a scene. On the interior, I have a little like smorgasbord of treats for anybody who wants to kind of share their story. Kool-Aid, who's giving off the mod updates, and then we got Abra over here, who's writing down a bunch of scripts. This is where I will sit to give people updates on what's going on in my world. Over here, I have the newspaper boys getting ready, stretching their legs, getting all limbered up to deliver the newspaper throughout the city, because, you know, that's a big job, of course. Across the way, Phasmophobia is basically like Ghostbusters. It's like a video game. We have the Ghostmobile, the motorcycle version. And then we have the Ghostmobile, the van version. So you can load up the van with all of the ghost busting equipment and then go take them out. We're going to go through the front of this area so we can check out the interior. I really enjoy the way that this interior worked because I think there's a lot of detail I crammed into this area. We got the summoning circle, Tanglewood's potato that doesn't say wheat, ghost orbs, like a little portal. We got like voodoo dolls and totems and flashlights, Geiger counters, ghost traps, people running around from actual ghosts. That's Ghostina. And yeah, if you wanted to buy anything before your previous ghost hunt, you come over here, you buy whatever you need, you load up the van, you take off, and you go do some ghost busting. Over here, I have the bakery. I think this thing might be called the cakery. I don't remember exactly what we ended up calling this at the end of the day. I was just kind of playing around with the new pale oak logs and then mixing in some more of the pastel colors and made it into a little bit of a retro cake shop where you guys can buy some like ice cream or cake and whatever you guys can order off the menu back there. If you got any cool dishes that should be added to the menu, let me know and I can add it up back there for you guys. Next to this, we have a little bit of a parking lot. And then we have an ice cream truck selling ice cream just outside. Across the way is, and it's of course it's raining again, we have the bookshop. If you want to be able to rent yourself a book or kind kind of have a nice cozy place to read a nice book. We got a fireplace. You can have a nice little seat, read your favorite book. This is also where I learned that you can put like tadpoles inside of this glass, and not only tadpoles, but also axolotls, which is really neat. Got Miss May just hanging out, renting out some books. I think this area is a vibe. I think I got the brown mushroom stems on the wall or on the ceiling, and I think it turned out pretty nice. And then we got a wizard over here juggling a bunch of books. And then little guy giving him a diamond for all of his cool tricks he's doing. We have a play over here. So Batman is currently playing a limousine. And let me know if you guys recognize any of the plays that are coming up. Curious to see, like, obviously I know some of them are very obvious, but some of them might not be unless you're really into theater. And then we got the celebrities without their heads, because I keep forgetting to do it. Paparazzi taking pictures of all the celebrities, and everybody coming in with their tickets, wanting to watch the play, which is The Dark Knight Rises, where we have like a little scene of all of the Batman characters all throughout here. And then I've built a little bit of like a cityscape back there, put like a little moon, which honestly the pale oak wood looks great as a moon. Like the way that turned out, and like the birch buttons really do look like a city. You guys are probably wondering exactly how this is done. Well, this is only possible on Java, where if you place down a sign and then you place down a carpet, the sign kind of peeks out ever so slightly. And it gives you like one of those really fancy carpets. Doubling on back to the Christmas crane area, we have the toy factory right in behind here. So there's a conveyor belt moving in all the toys that are falling into the truck that delivers toys throughout the city. This is the toy truck. Big giant headlights. It's got a giant engine. We've got sirens so we can get around super incredibly quick. The North Star. And then all the presents get collected up back here. And it actually has a full interior, which is really fun. So we've got like a little like horn. We've got the key. This is supposed to be like the gas and brake pedal, the steering wheel, the gear shifter knob. And yeah, little coat racks on the side. I love building vehicles in Minecraft. And this vehicle, I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. In the front, I have a couple forklifts, also moving around some like presents or whatever needs to be moved around with a forklift. Pretty cool design. Where we have like the warehouse where the truck is at. This central area is actually where a lot of the toys are made. So this is the actual toy factory. Up there is like a vacuum that sucks up all the toys and puts it onto the conveyor belt. And then on this side, this is actually a post office. So let's go in through the post office first. So if you wanted to mail like a letter out to your loved ones or your family members, there's a little seating area. Fancy carpet. If you want to bring in your presents, have them shipped out to anybody in the world, you can do that. This cat is looking mighty stressed out. It is Christmas Day after all, and people are coming in with all their gifts a little bit late. There's a massive lineup out the door. People coming into the actual toy factory. We have like carolers, people who are like singing, people who are stealing, individuals who are knocking on the door. Coming in here, this is the toy factory. This is the vacuum that sucks up all the presents and puts it into the truck. So you just like throw your toys here and then they get pushed in. Looks like somebody fell in. And then their friend, of course, being a bad example. Bruh. The front area where you can order up all of your presents. You got a little piggy bank. People fixing clocks and hanging out. A really chill guy chilling. Two of my moderators, Bunny and Amanda, who are building up the Grumbot. And I really like the way that this all turned out. This was a really, really special day. I had over 100 NPCs, or immortalizes is what I call it over on the Twitch side, all show up on Christmas to get a free armor stand, and it really brought this place to life. This Christmas, I'll be doing something very similar. So if you guys want to be a part of something, and if you don't have a place to hang out, well, you're more than welcome to hang out over here. We also have some little Toy Stories, like Toy Story, like toys, who are trying to escape the toy factory, which I thought was just hilarious. People being like thrown around with snowballs. I think I might have, yeah, a couple other like little tiny little armor stands of people escaping the toy factory and doing a bunch of that type of stuff. Let me sleep away this rain. That is so much better. Sorry about that, but this is a long world tour, and unfortunately I can't control the rain in hardcore. So got the happy ghast with the pig just kind of floating around up there. This is the Christmas train, so we're kind of importing in some snowmen, some Christmas trees, presents, of course, a giant present for somebody very big, and then the engine, which I'll show you guys here in just a moment. This is the train station where you can kind of hang out. This is obviously a very outdated map. Probably a pretty common theme throughout my world. A lot of outdated stuff. Mail, if you want to mail anything to your friends or family. This is a little like post. This is like a, what do you call those things? Like a newspaper stand. Little hot chocolate stand right here. You have like a nice little seating area. You can take pictures with like your family on Christmas. This is my very first ever train that I built in the world, and I'm pretty happy with the way everything turned out. This is the engine. We got the smoke pluming out. The actual like train tracks will continue on very, very far. I'm not sure exactly where that's going to go, but it will continue on. Fire truck, obviously. Got to have a little bit of fire control in the area. Police officer, food trucks. This is Industries. And it comes with a door that I accidentally forgot to shut. But if I did that, it will shut the door. And let me fly in through the top, actually. It's supposed to be like a redstone testing facility or a museum. So I've basically put up like different types of like redstone technological feats. This is the sorter that I use, except the only thing that I've changed with this sorter is I've added the light system at the very top just to indicate what's going through. And then this is just like a super reliable 1-second clock that I thought was really, really neat. If you ever needed like a 1-second clock in your world, which is, you know, something that you would use. Helicopter up on top of this building. This was a ton of fun to build as well. We got rooftop pools, rooftop gardens, big hardcore hearts, but let me show you guys a little bit of the farms that are within these buildings. Inside of this building in particular, oh gosh. I think I gotta do this. Yeah. This is a mud farm right up top. So I just kind of sit here, hydrate all of the dirt, kind of pushes it up and then pushes it in towards that obsidian, and then I just mine out all the mud if I need. Comes in handy when I don't want to go all the way out to like a mangrove swamp and decimate it, although it is probably much faster because I don't really ever have dirt available. So, you know, armored vehicle. This is the museum where I'm just kind of displaying a bunch of stuff, a bunch of rare things like the dragon's breath, which I can't get no more. One of my very first blue axolotls, brown panda heads, some rare ores, some cool plants. Across the way, I have the yoga mat. You can just hang out, do some hyper extended stretches, and then there's the juice bar. Down here, there is the arcade, which doubles as a cactus farm and a flower farm. So right up here, it feeds right into the alien's head where all of the cactus and stuff will accumulate over time. And if I ever need any of it, I just take it. Got a little like photo booth, some popcorn, a stormtrooper with a golem trying to hit him. We got whack-a-chicken, arcade machines, DDR, and little vending machines and such. Buses, ambulances. Over here, so up top in this area, I have a purple farm, and I also have a bamboo farm. Over there, I have a melon and pumpkin farm. Trying to remember everything here so I don't have to show you guys. This is supposed to be like a mineral shop and a little bit of a spa where you can get nice and relaxed. Get a little massage. Cute little like Vespas. Little apartment complex. Down here is just like kind of like a shady alley where we have the Amandazon van. We got these allays. They're supposed to be selling totems. Oh, I have a little Easter egg here that you guys may or may not like. It is a little, you know, I was going to call him an alien. I guess he technically is an alien. I should have like a little red balloon coming out of here as well. Just a little Easter egg. Since apparently I'm pointing those out so you guys don't have to point them out in the comments. Hippie van. This is a Vespa shop. We got like this little like kid over here who's like looking at the Vespa being like, man, I really want to own a Vespa one day. Hopefully they'll actually do it. Get yourself some keys and buy yourself a Vespa. This is like a B&B kind of deal. Come in here if you need a place to stay. Across the way, like I said, that is the melon and pumpkin farm. That's pretty much the whole thing. And that's the city. Opening up the map, you guys can see just the sheer scale of this place so far, but also how small it is. So we got the train station, the train, the street that we just went down, all the way down here is where like the sheep farm is, and the theater way back there. This is a gold farm and a resin farm that I'll be expanding in the future. But when we zoom on out, it's crazy how small the city is, yet how big it is. Speaking about things that are big, check out this Guardian stat. That is officially almost 1 million Guardians killed in the world, and it's not actually from this farm that you see behind me. It's going to be from a farm I'm going to show you guys after. But this is the automated Guardian farm. This was one of the very first builds that I ever built in the world, where I dug it all the way down to what was bedrock at the time. I put a sunken ship in here. I created a coral reef on the very bottom with a bunch of axolotls, where I got the blue one finally. Took a very, very long time. This monument you guys may have actually seen around on the webs because people really love the tridents that I got going on in there. And as you guys can see, there is a lot of Guardians pouring on in from the top, which I'll show you guys exactly how that works. I'm missing 3 shulker boxes, but essentially when the Guardians fall down, they die, and I basically collect up all of the resources. The reason why it's inside of a shulker box is if I want to make a bunch of stuff, I could just grab the shulker boxes and I can bring them back to my base. I have a central little fountain right here. If I fly up top, I actually have the 1000 Sunny that's heading towards the monument. So we'll go over that here in just a moment. Obviously, I'm a big One Piece fan. So of course I had to build the 1000 Sunny because I have the Going Merry, and I just wanted to have the whole complete set, of course. Going back over to the Guardian farm, there actually is a beacon in the middle, but I don't actually have my beacons turned on using sodium extras. It gives me the ability to render off my beacons, which is exactly why you guys see I always have beacon effects, yet you don't see any of the beams. On the inside of this temple, I call this the Terra Temple. The Guardian farm is extremely straightforward. I just have one aqua thingy, and then I got 2 aqua thingies. I don't know what to call these things. Spawning areas for the Guardians with soul sand at the bottom, which push them up into the signs, which push them into this central bit, and then they just fall down and die. The Guardian pixel art right here in the middle. I've done my best to try to light up the area, of course, with all the sea lanterns And the reason why I call this the Terra Temple is because this is where I'll harvest a bunch of resources if need be. So I've got the cocoa beans if I just need like a small amount of them, the pale moss, the petals, snow layers or snowballs. I have a small little compact flower farm. Right here is where I normally keep a lot of the bone meal to supply all the farms. Sweetberry, glowberry, lichen, bamboo, little bamboo farm right here. Never use it. I don't think I've ever actually used it. Small vine farm right here. That's clearly not growing any vines. Got the, whatever this thing is, the crimson mushroom. Yeah, the crimson fungus. Oops. That can just be harvested there. Then we got the roots. I don't remember. Oh, this was supposed to be for ferns, I believe. Got hanging roots, kelp, and seagrass. And that's about it. And quickly, before we move on, this is where I start and end every single one of my streams, sitting right here inside of this minecart where I get to say hello to everybody, and then we can get the day going. But this desk is pretty iconic. It's got some pretty big things on it. My 3 years without using a totem, my very first movie on YouTube, my 1 year of playtime and when I hit it, and then a few little mementos along the way. Oh my gosh, if I can get on this desk. The very first ancient debris, the last netherrack that I mined inside of my wither skeleton farm, the last end stone that I mined, digging out my entire end island, my 1 millionth stone, 5 years on Twitch. This is just a fancy little notch apple. I believe this was the very first trident I got when I was building my trident farm. And then a pain in the gas was when I got the advancement of moving a gas into the overworld and then killing it. And then of course we got this guy. But the real reason why I almost have 1 million guardians killed in my world is right beyond this wall right here, where the corresponding hall in the nether leads all the way down to this portal to our left, where I get just an insane amount of prismarine crystals, and tons of experience. For every TNT used in this farm, I get about 7,500 experience, which is about 750 guardians per TNT blast. And this is the build on the exterior of that farm. I have the Elder Guardian shooting a laser beam down the stairs. I have the End Dragon, which is supposed to be symbolic of the most amount of experience you can get in Minecraft, the legitimate way, not using god particles or anything. And he's breaking his way out of the pyramid, shooting out experience out of his mouth, even though it kind of just looks like he's throwing up. There are a couple things I would probably change when it comes down to the dragon, making the wings a little bit more dynamic for next time. But I think this was like my second dragon ever built in the world, maybe my third, but I'm pretty sure this was only my second. And I think I did a pretty good job. I think that the blackstone works wonders as dragon scales, especially when it comes down to the end dragon itself. I love the way that the horns turned out, and I built this one up for Timmy and all of his homies, friends and homies almost came at the same time there, and I'm not re-recording this clip. On the interior, we have the hardcore heart, of course. We have the signet of the Ender Dragon right here in the middle as a big giant crest, and I have a giant end gateway that is fully open so that the End Dragon can come out of where it came from, which is obviously the end, where I think we'll be heading next. But before I show you guys what the end looks like, I need to show you guys exactly how I get there, and that is through an underground, unique minecart track ride that's going to take us through several different dimensions until we hit our end portal. So this is the storage room that's connected over to the sewage system through an open gate. And there's a few little things in here I would love to show you guys. I have the fog effect on both sides, a little bit of a sewage walkway system. I have a baby Zoglin that I brought to the overworld years ago named Pumbaa. I have my very first ever warden captured in the world, probably about 3 or 4 years old now. I don't know exactly when that update came out. And right at the very end, to our right, I have my overworld hub. Just like my nether hub, the overworld hub will take me to locations that are a little bit closer by than taking the nether hub. So come through here, through our secret doorway. and there's more sewage through that wall. Come in through this way. And I have the stars and the moon and the sun up in the sky right there. And this is supposed to be inspired by Skyrim with the Thieves Guild. The something Skeever, I think it's called. This way will take us to the end. But let me show you guys exactly what's beneath me first. So since this is supposed to be the Thieves Guild, I have a couple wardens that hang out right there. I can release them, let them run around, do whatever they need to be. But the idea behind this area was it's supposed to teach you exactly how to be sneaky. So you're supposed to loot all the chests without the wardens being able to detect you. That's how you know you're a very good thief. Underneath, I have a thieves' school. I have the moon, supposed to be like a thief in the night. Really cool roof. I love this roof. Love the way it comes up. This is the thieves' vault. Later on, through all of my season 2 projects where I basically revamp everything in my world, I'm going to be putting them inside of this vault so we can always look back and have that nostalgia of all of the previous builds without actually like losing them. The dining hall, which is inspired by Harry Potter. I really love this wall in particular with all of the mangrove going up with the redstone lamps peeking through. This is the grand library. I have an enchantment table at the very end as well. And I really, really love kelp mixed in with the dark oak in this room. I think it looks fantastic. Got little like piston tables, which I think turned out really cool. And a couple just random tables here and there. Over on this side, there's a couple classrooms. On the left, we have the Curses and Wishes classroom ran by Bunny. And then we have the botany room over here. If you want to learn how to make like invisibility potions, you can do that in this room. And then up top is actually how we're going to connect ourselves to the end. So flying up here, if I go down there, I can connect myself over to the end. Later on, I'll be expanding this area to connect over to my medieval area and my iron farm and the Skulklands. If you guys recall me showing you guys that probably hours ago at this point. And then this way, I think it's going to connect us over to the city. So let's take a look at this. First, we need to grab ourselves a minecart. We're going to place it on the track. And there is quite a few Easter eggs in this minecart ride. I'm going to try to point them out to you guys, but I want to see who can spot the most amount of Easter eggs down in the comments down below. And if you win, I might even pin your comment for a little bit. We'll see what happens. So coming through here, this is supposed to be the underground mushroom cave biome. I've got a slime launcher back there that pushes us all the way through there. I got Koroks and Goombas and mushrooms, of course. There's a spawner just down here that, of course, I couldn't get rid of. I couldn't get rid of the spawner, so I left it there. It's pretty cool to have. Then we go into the mine shaft area where we have tons of different ores being collected. We got the canaries up inside the cages. Over to our left, we have the little crane, little bit of a jump scare of a creeper that gets shot up through a slime launcher. This is supposed to be the Mossa. Before I came by and completely mossified it. Got some Jawas ripping apart the car. Little Easter egg there. Got the wheat bales being taken apart. The ocean monument. If you guys didn't know, you can actually ride minecarts underwater on Java. I don't know if you could do that on Bedrock, but there's a lot of Easter eggs within this region. We got a sunken pirate ship, jellyfish, octopies, because there's multiple of them. We got sharks and pufferfish, a bunch of glow squid, which was not intended. And this next section coming up is actually supposed to be the scary one. So we're gonna go through a haunted mansion. And I got a bunch of pop-ups basically coming up. Going into the haunted mansion with all the Vexes who are gonna try to kill you. Come down here. We've got the warden down inside of this area. This is the laboratory. Up in here, we have another like haunted mansion, which has a ton of Easter eggs in it. This is supposed to be kind of like Indiana Jones temple run type deal. So we got like the booby traps with the arrows shooting across the floor that falls from beneath your feet into the Egyptian tomb right on over here. And then we got Super Mario. We got a big giant piranha plant. We got Mario himself. And then we go straight into Rainbow Road, the most iconic Super Minecart or Super Mario Kart track there is out there, which is a lot of fun to go down. We got this guy, we've got the dragon who yells at you, and this is where the end portal is located. Pop off this, and then nothing fancy, just chuck that over there, let it despawn. So let me show you guys, let's backtrack a little bit. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on back here. So this minecart ride, this was probably one of the funnest things I ever had to do. A Super Mario Kart race in Minecraft. I love this. We got chain chomps. We got the invisible ghost thing. We've got the boxes that you hit. People throwing creepers at one another. This is supposed to be like the bananas, but instead I use floppers. Red shells. We got Yoshi. We got the boosts. Level up mushrooms. The poisonous mushrooms. I had so much fun with this. I want to do like a Sonic the Hedgehog one later on, but this was a lot of fun. I even have like the little holograms that you would see on the level throughout Rainbow Road. And this guy uses so many armor stands, it's crazy. One for his like little like light, and then for his flag, and then for himself hanging out in his little cloud. I forget what his name is. I know it starts with an L. I butcher it every single time. The actual end hub right here. And then I've got the solar system above the end portal. So we got aliens on Mars. We have the sun. This guy's being ejected up into space. The Ender Dragon. We got like just a present floating around. We got aliens. And yeah, I think it's about time we hop into the end now. So one thing you'll notice about my end island is I don't actually have one. I completely removed it with my pickaxe. No TNT duping. So there's actually no end stone in sight. Walking up the platform here from the kind of like the gazebo where my central platform is, I have a multi-purpose Enderman farm, Wither Rose farm, and Skulk farm. And of course, Nether Star farm, because this is where I fight all of my withers. Down here is where the Skulk farm is located. So they'll just kind of fall down into this area, and then I'll kill them there. Up top, I have an All-A who hangs out back there, who will collect up all of the Wither Roses. Every time I summon the Wither, it kills all the Endermen because they are one-shot. They are falling about 42 blocks, I believe, from the very top all the way down to there. So they're at half a heart. Watch. So this guy's mad. Punch him. Dead. That's because he's only at... wow, I'm under attack. He's only at like half a heart. Every single one of the gateways has been opened up. I've killed the dragon about 23 separate times, and I've just kind of put a hardcore heart for every single gateway, which I think turned out pretty cool. The ones on an angle were definitely weird to do. I never really use the gateways all that often just because I don't really trust them. I get this question quite a bit. Where do I get the bedrock from? Bedrock is actually found at the very top of every single one of your obsidian pillars in the end. And that central one right there, well, everybody has that. If you just dig it out, that's normally where a lot of people will fight the Wither. I'm going to get rid of all the obsidian pillars, and I actually want to completely revamp this entire area. I might even resummon the dragon at one point, especially if we get an end update one day. It'd be really nice to kind of do a complete overhaul of this entire area. Got my lush floating island right there, and then I've got the corrupted floating island right there. And you guys are probably wondering what the heck this thing is. Well, so the idea behind this structure right on over here was, well, there was a couple things actually. I wanted to design spaceships that looked like birds. So that's exactly what I did. I've got the green bird. I got the blue bird. I have probably my favorite bird right on over here, which is the phoenix. Really cool. We got an eagle. This was my very first endermite, so I'm not going to get rid of that guy. We have the owl, and it's all connected to this space station right here, which is harvesting the asteroid for all of its resources. So there's like precious metals inside of this asteroid that it's trying to harvest so they can make these spaceships that you see around here. And then later on one day, I want to connect this to how we build beacons in the world. So if I come down here, it actually has an interior. Well, it will have an interior. It's not a fully done up interior by any means, but it will. We've got like little docking areas where I can kind of hang out and have spaceships connect up to here. I want to have like a fully done up space station. And then in the interior of this area, I think that this would be a perfect location for a mega build. It is a lot bigger than it looks. I can't remember how big of a circle it was, but I remember it being very challenging at the time. So what I had to do was just basically alternate different blocks so I can keep track of exactly where I was when I was building up the giant sphere. Because I don't use Litematica or anything like that, I basically had to use Plots. Plots is a website where you can just input whatever dimensions you want for a sphere, and it will give you the step-by-step directions that you have to follow along in your Minecraft world, basically, if you want to try to make that happen. One day I would love to expand on that idea and have more bird ships flying around the end, but I also want to have some really cool space trains while we're at it. We'll get to this guy here in just a moment, but I want to show you guys the end turtle I have who flies through the end with a sandcastle on its back. One of my very first organics that I ever built in the world. And of course, I had to make it massive enough to build a lot of different structures on its back, right? It actually wasn't too difficult. We got the sandcastle, which was inspired by Sandygas, the Pokemon. If you know, you know. On the inside, we have just a little bit of some trees, some water. I don't know why the water is so incredibly blue in here. Turtle eggs, where Catcumber hangs out on his throne. This was when axolotls first came out to the game, so I had a bunch of axolotls swimming around here. Fountain. Over here, actually, inside of these boxes, or these turtle eggs, I have Easter eggs. So these are from the past, back when I used to do scavenger hunts throughout my world, and then I used to just kind of hide them. Got a little oasis right on over here, and I think I actually have another thing of... Yeah, here they are. Cool. Look at that. The scavenger hunt from 2022, which is crazy to think of. That these boxes have been here for over 3 years. 3 years, dude. That's wild to look back at. Got the pathway that's going to connect us on over to the other side of the turtle, where I have my I think it was my very first bee farm that I had constantly running while I was doing this entire area, just because bees don't actually sleep in the end. So it was constantly producing. So I would just come in here and I would manually like kind of do my thing and get a bunch of honey whenever possible. I don't think there's any Easter eggs inside this egg. And then, yeah, that's basically the very first turtle I ever made. It's supposed to be a turtle egg farm. So I got a bunch of turtles who actually live inside the head of the turtle. And that's where I get a lot of my turtle eggs, if I ever want to build like a gold farm or whatever it may be. Back to the central island. If we take a left, this is my celebration build that I built a long time ago. This is where I hold a lot of my fireworks shows, but it actually has a lot more significance behind just fireworks shows. So it is the god of celebrations. Got the big giant arches going all the way around and across. The central fountain. We got these big giant holographic spotlights right here. We got the other spotlights right here in the middle. Like, I guess those would be kind of like floodlights. Up here is the redstone testing facility. That's not what I wanted to say. The firework testing facility. So the idea is I craft up the rockets. So let me see. Maybe I've got some rockets kicking around in here. So, okay. So we'll make up a mock-up. I wanted to make something out of diamonds, and let's say I wanted to make it pink. I can go in here. Let me see if I can even remember how to build these things. I can make myself a charge. So we'll actually make a few of them. Might as well. Then we make it like this, and we make ourselves a firework. Put away all of my random junk, and I'll show you guys what the idea is behind here. I have a lever. What we'll do is we'll put 6 in there, and then we'll put 6 in there. I flick this lever, and then it shoots off the fireworks, so we can kind of see exactly what they're going to look like before we add them to the fireworks shows. So I guess that's exactly what diamonds do. I don't know exactly what that is. I guess that's like kind of like a burst. So if I wanted to incorporate that into my fireworks show, I can do that at the very backside of all the arches. I'll show you guys that here in just a moment. But over here, I have my achievement board. So if you guys are playing in your single player world and you're looking for a way to stay inspired for years on end, this board right here, I highly recommend building it. So these are all of my farms coming all the way down that I have built in my world, and I've got a few more farms that I still have to add. So like maybe like a shulker farm, which I don't have right now, a creaking farm, which I would love to like make a little bit bigger. These are all symbolic of every single mega build I have within the world. So you guys are going to be seeing a lot of these, obviously, in the world tour. Up top over here are all of the items that I've hit 1 million in. I have my little mementos of every single year I've survived. Couple little like accolades of like little things that I've accomplished throughout time on Twitch and YouTube. Every 5,000 days survived in the world, all the way up till 50,000. Amanda has gifted over 1 million bits, so she's on the board as well. And then I have like just a bunch of like different stats that I haven't updated in a really long time. Actually, looking at my stats now, you guys can see that I've almost hit 4 million stone. I'm going to actually do a complete deep dive of all of my stats. If you guys want to see that happen, let me know down below, and I'll make a complete like video on all the stats that I've accomplished in the world and exactly where I've done that. I did that for my 45,000 day tour as well. Over here, I just have like a small little furnace array so I can make up a bunch of dyes. Back there is a sea pickle farm, and then I can just cook it up for all the lime dye. And then way up here is actually where I showcase all of my fireworks shows. I stand like kind of like right here. I look up at the sky. I don't have to wait till it's nighttime. It's always ready to go. Grand finale, if I click this lever, all of these will kind of just pop off. And then I put all of the rockets in every single one of these dispensers going all the way down. We have a giant firework blasting off here in the center. And on the interior here, I just have like a small little room that Sizzlesaur wanted to basically make the little like these little thingies right here, the pixel arts. I have the giant hardcore heart, little table for everybody to sit at. If maybe we'll actually get more people in there. Actually, I don't know why I never put anybody there, because I feel like that's kind of like a missed opportunity. Getting these arches going all the way around was a massive massive undertaking. I've definitely learned a lot about arches when it came down to that, but this is my entire end. Time to work our way back to the overworld. But quickly, before we head back over to the overworld, let's just finish off all of the builds in the nether, and let's head over to our blaze farm and my nether wart farm, where the piglins are in war with all of the blazes. The blazes are supposed to be like mages, and the piglins are supposed to be kind of like brutes, I guess. As you guys can see, this hall right here is one of my favorite halls out of all the halls. I think being able to actually look out into the nether through this glass is really freaking cool. You guys can see like the gas flying around. You can see the beacons I have in the world. Look down over to like the lava, and you guys can see the blaze farm right on over here. So I built this blaze farm a very long time ago. It was actually one of my very first builds I had in the world. And these lanterns are supposed to be like eternal lanterns that are constantly producing more and more blazes. I don't trust that gas over there. Where they come out of these eternal lanterns, basically. We got the blue one, the orange one, all around here. So that's pretty much how Zopa supplies his army. This was back in the day when... Hold on. I knew it. This was back in the day when I was first trying to get good at doing pixel art. So I built that pixel art, and then I built this pixel art right here of the blaze shooting its flames over towards us, and then we go through the flames, and this is how we have access to the blaze farm, and then all of the drops drop in there. This is a pack through vanilla tweaks if you guys want to check that out. It's called More Mob Heads. Also where I craft up a lot of my end rods, and then I just wait for these guys to fall down, and then I swipe away. And then Zopa hangs out inside the hanging lantern right on over here with his 2 portals and all of his besties who guard him. Right on down here is where my nether wart farm is, and you can see there's an epic battle going on. Love the floor. I used a bunch of lava to kind of help light up the area, and this build was my very first cathedral I ever attempted in hardcore Minecraft, and honestly, I really like the way it turned out. I was limited by how tall I could have gone, because the nether is just not nearly as tall as it can be, but all in all, really love the way this shaped up. On the inside is a nether wart farm that produces about 10,000-ish nether wart or whatever. I've got a bunch of allays. I'll use like my fortune pickaxe to get a bunch, or my fortune hoe, in order to gather up even more. We have the piglin army on this side, and then we have the piglin army archers over on this side, and then we have Elusive who hangs out on his throne, and then we've got like the hoglins who are up inside of the cages. And I was just really trying to challenge myself when it came to interiors. I've obviously become a lot better when it comes to doing the interiors of... this was very open. Very open concept. Very flat walls. You could tell I built this a while ago. But I think the exterior still holds up pretty nicely. There's a bunch of things in here that are a big no-no for me. Such as like kind of like the very flat walls kind of deal. That's tends to be something I try to stay away from. But... everybody starts somewhere. While we're on the topic of cathedrals, this was my ice cathedral that I built for my snow farm way back in the day. This is where I also have my 3 ice dragons in the world, Aurora, Boris, and Alice. And this build actually goes all the way up to world height. And I wanted to kind of put it out here in the spikes biome and make the build itself kind of look like a giant ice spike in a way. That way it didn't stand out too much with all of the ice spikes kicking around here. Underneath one day, I would love to expand this area into an ice cave, so that will definitely happen. And then the side is actually where I have the snow block farm. I put in as much detail as I could onto the sides. Actually, this was my very first ever time trying to build something on a diagonal. So there was a lot to learn here, especially when doing the walls on an angle. And even the dragons themselves are on an angle as well. Flying in here is actually where I have the snow block farm. I'm probably gonna make this chandelier much bigger. I think that's way too small. I have another chandelier here at the very end. I have the throne that I built for Doug, which I still need to put him on because I keep forgetting to do that. I'm going to be putting an ice dragon here and an ice dragon right there. And I just got to work with some really cool colors that I never got to work with before, using a lot more prismarine and the copper grates. I have some braziers kicking around and some places for people to sit down and enjoy a nice beverage. This is a lot more difficult of a build than I thought it was going to be. This is a diagonal organ, so you could play the organ right here. But behind the organ was where I actually placed my snow block farm. So we have a couple golems who passed away, unfortunately. And this is Olaf III. Don't ask what happened to the other two, but I'll just stand here and I'll farm up tons and tons of snow, and it will auto-craft it into snow blocks over time. But that wasn't the first time I ever built in the ice spikes biome. This one is just a little bit different. This one was my very first time ever trying to do a giant floating island in the overworld, and I struggled so much with this island. I actually had to rebuild it twice. It's got a castle on the very, very top. We got TMG who hangs out. We got the foxes, all of the trees going all the way around this entire area. Giant snowflake here in the middle. I think I kind of had to fly up in order for you guys to really see the snowflake. Love the way that this thing kind of goes on a big giant octagon kind of deal. I'm not sure exactly what this shape is. We have the overworld orange fox. We have the white fox. We have the phoenix fox. And then the ender fox connects to the main end hub through that portal. And then down here is actually where I have all of my green frogs. Since then, I've kind of moved the green frogs elsewhere, but this is where I used to get all of the green frogs in the game. And let me show you guys the corresponding nether portal that connects to the nether hub. This tunnel probably being the shortest tunnel of all the other tunnels. Didn't really have to go very far for this one. I've got the light blue glazed terracotta coming through here, the acacia pillars. I've got the snow and ice coming in from the roof. And then one day I would love to kind of fill in these like little like glass boxes with some really cool, like maybe like polar bears and snow foxes, maybe even some stray. But we don't have to go very far until we link up to the main nether hub, because it's right here. That Fox Island is very close to where I live inside the Masa. And while we're on the topic of cold, this area on over here, I want to make this into my Frostpunk region because it's got a bunch of snow and ice around here. We're going to be cutting it off from the Skulklands. I want to build a giant wall to separate the Skulklands in the Frost region, because I think a really cool lore, one day we'll be having like these creatures that live inside the Skulklands called Skulk Crawlers. And if they make their way into the cold biome, they lose their mind and go crazy and feral. So we want to make sure that the Skulk Crawlers stay within the Skulklands. Otherwise, we'll have a bigger threat on our hands. This village was the very first village I ever encountered. This was my spawn chunk, so I spawned like right on over there. I ran over to this village right here. I think I actually have maybe one trader who still lives inside of this area, but I since then have come back, boarded up all the windows. This was like my very first quote unquote crafting bench. Yeah, I made this thinking that this was a crafting bench, plopped it down, and then realized quickly afterwards that was a fletching table. I think I actually have a YouTube episode about that. I made this all dilapidated, put cobwebs, a bunch of vines, made this place look all old, put some like wither roses in the area. But this brings back some memories. Connecting on over to our observatory. This observatory has actually been corrupted. Yeah, my world actually has been corrupted a couple times. A few times, actually. Right here is where you can see the corruption. I'll show you guys exactly all the damage when we fly up inside of there. It looks minimal, but it did destroy quite a bit. This airship was the very first airship that I built. There's a lot of firsts in this world because I came over from Bedrock over to Java. And there was quite the big learning curve. This is all supposed to be kind of like steampunk. So I've got like the fans, I have the gears in the floor, the giant hearts, the observatory, the crane. I have a moss farm inside of there. And inside of this main area was actually where I had my big iron farm. So the iron farm used to be right here, and you could see all the golems falling. And then they changed where spawn chunks were located, and now they're getting rid of the spawn chunks, so it doesn't really matter. I'll probably end up moving that iron farm back to this central location so I can start pumping out even more iron than what I'm doing right now. And as you guys can see, this is the front of my build that got completely saved on top of this part of the build and destroyed a big chunk. I didn't lose any of the shulkers that I brought from the end over to the overworld, but it did destroy this area, which used to be my honey farm. It destroyed that beacon up there by completely cutting it in half. Luckily, I don't think it looks like I actually lost a bunch of my resources that I kept in here. It basically took all of the copper from the front entrance and then replaced it here. And there's a bunch of lighting glitches. And of course, it broke my iron farm in the process. So I had to fix up the iron farm, make it look all pretty again. And it was a big ordeal. Honeycomb farm right back here is basically what that room used to look like before it got split. Down here used to be where I used to keep all of my iron. Now I'm probably going to come up with all the modules, and I'm going to build an even bigger and better iron farm there. And over here is where I build up a bunch of different robots in the world. And I'll show you guys exactly where some of those robots are located after this. So we've got like these little drones that rip around on one wheel. We've got the little like mining drone. We have like Iron Man suits, flying drones that use like little propellers. And then on this side, we have the bigger, like the Chad bot and the Brad bot. And then I've got some like Sparky and Awkwardtron hanging out. And where a lot of those robots are is beyond this door right here, where I do a absolute ton of my villager trading, where I built my very first dragon in the world named Puff, the very last amethyst dragon. Also guards the dragon egg of my world, and that dragon egg is on top of my diamond beacon that nobody cares about anymore because it's all about netherite beacons. So thank you, Mojang, for that, stealing my thunder and such. But yeah, we have Puff. And then coming through this area, this is where I have all of my villagers. So I've got like a little like bank right here where I keep all my emeralds. And then I'll do all of my villager trading inside this hall. They are all like categorized and color coordinated depending on what they are. So you guys can see the crafting bench up top. Actually, whoa, that's a very old map. That's a very, very, very old map. That's my old Masa before I actually made the Masa. That actually never clicked for me. There's like not even moss on that map. Whoa, the nostalgia. I have the cartographers. I have the librarians. I have all of the clerics, and every single villager in the game. There's about 24 of them, and every single one of these hallways. And this is where I have done a massive amount of the trading in my world, basically selling iron to weaponsmiths, armor smiths, and toolsmiths in order to accumulate all the emeralds that you see in the world. And over the years, I've accumulated over 2 million villager trades. And that's without the help of using any void trading or any tricks when it comes to villagers. That's just me sitting in here painstakingly trading every single day while I say hello to everybody in my live streams. On this side, I have I think this is a nether wart farm back here. Yep, nether wart farm. This lever will basically release a bunch of water, and then all that nether wart will be collected down here inside of these chests. And then I used to have shulker boxes there back when I was making tons of red nether wart bricks. I have a furnace array that has 240 furnaces in it. where we have like basically have like a minecart system that goes back and forth, loads it all up with coal and whatever block I'm trying to smelt at the time. And then everything will get collected right here and correspondingly all the way on up. And this place actually connects over to that sewage system that I was showing you guys earlier through a amethyst geode down these stairs. And if you guys remember exactly where that goes, then you know exactly where we are. And do you guys remember those bee and spider splices I was showing you guys earlier at the spider farm? Well, this is exactly where they come from. So this is my bee and spider castle, where it is being slowly invaded by a bunch of spiders, which sounds as terrifying as it does. Yes, I'm an arachnophobic, and then I've had to build all of this. So I've got a black widow on a big giant spider web that I built for DJ. Its name is Scar. Got like the scar in its eye. It looks incredible from down here. My voice is kind of gone at this point, so you guys are gonna have to bear with me. Hopefully I don't have too deep of a voice. You can see the hourglass from underneath. Down here, I definitely want to expand in the future. This is the nether portal that connects to the hub, and right on over here through this pathway, we can make our way all the way over to the castle because there's a lot more stuff to see in there, but I want to show you guys the path that leads up there. I've got a bunch of spiders crawling out of holes. There's another gene spliced spider of the bee and the spider put together. Little tarantulas. And then we have like a trampled forest coming up where the jumping spider has completely like destroyed everything in its path. Bison's trying to hold him back, and he's making a big giant leap across the gap right here over to that bridge. I got a couple other little additional spiders on the way. I've got the honeycomb pattern up on this this wall right here. This was a really fun thing to kind of learn how to do. It turns out it's a lot easier to build honeycomb patterns on a diagonal than it is on a flat wall. I could tell you that from experience. The jumping spider from the side profile. This was back when I was starting to like try to map out all of my builds. In the future, I want to completely revamp this entire area because I want to do kind of more of like a grounded inspired ascension. You know, I want to get rid of all these blossom trees and I want to replace them with big giant trees and fountains, and think of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids kind of deal where we got big insects and then we got like you walking around, which is going to be all super small and stuff. The front face of the jumping spider, which actually looks pretty cute. The main castle itself. So there's actually a couple things to show. It's supposed to be symbolic of photosynthesis. So in order to photosynthesize, there has to be a day and night cycle. And then obviously the sun being where plants get their energy from. So I wanted to build up a sun up here. Then we got the moon and we got the star. I've got these little pixel arts of like these little bees flying away. And that was like kind of like my abstract way of taking on a bee build without it being like the generic same stuff. On the inside here, I've got a little bit of a greenhouse vibe. I've got a bee in the floor. I've got a honeycomb pattern, like kind of like set down into the floor. And then we have the giant log here where all of the bees are coming out of. And then we got a big giant hive right there in the center. This is the maps pretty much in order of when I first started it. So that's what it looked like. And then I went through all of the different weeks of building up the entire area all the way up to the point where we were finished. This is supposed to be a wolf spider coming in here with all the babies on its back. I have an orb weaver right back here, just kind of chilling out in the back side of the build. I forgot to like wax one of the copper trapdoors back here, and Dan's calling me out. What a freaking guy. And then over here, I have a harvestman or a daddy longleg. Not actually technically a spider, but this one was a lot of fun to build. I think his name is Dale Dangles because he's got big dangly legs and his name is Dale. So he's a vibe. But this was a very different build. And I definitely want to see exactly where this goes in the future. And I can't wait to completely revamp this entire area because I think this is just such a gorgeous spot. All the blossom trees definitely need to go. The trees, like pretty much all of the trees in the vicinity need to go. And then I want to completely revamp and rebuild this place. Think about Alice in Wonderland. And now it's time to go extremely far in my world, probably the furthest area in my world, maybe a little bit closer than the Coral Palace. But right now we're going to head on over to the tree farm and my trident farm and my panda sanctuary where I obtained the brown panda. But the trident farm is pretty insane. It's probably the biggest farm I have in the world. Connected to the main hub through this tunnel right here, I have two portals. This portal that leads me out to my trident farm, and then the portal just down there that leads us over to Drown Town. But we're going to start things off at the trident farm itself. And as you guys can see, I do not use any fire protection in my world. A fire tick is currently on, and this place has burned down so many times, I've just given up building it back up. So this is the trident farm right here. These are built from my ocean monument that I showed you guys earlier. I just brought them over here. Thought they would really kind of work. As you guys can see, there is a trident guy already coming through. So I just sit here, I kill them. Potentially that trident will drop. And well, yeah, there's quite a few tridents in here. And on the outside, as I promised, this is definitely my biggest farm in the world. You guys can see all of the drowns going up through the water vader right there, going up to the kill chamber I just showed you guys. We got these big giant aquariums right on both sides that summon in all of the drowns, and then they just go up. They take a tick of damage so they don't despawn. And yeah, it's just a crazy amount of tridents. And that is all connected to Drown Town, where we have Healer, who is the only drowned to have ever spawned in the world with 2 tridents. He's a dual wielding, 2 trident holding drowned, which is pretty damn cool. I used to have my blue axolotls in there. I since moved them over to the Coral Palace. I've got a bunch of the glow squid up in here. Almost forgot the name of those guys. I have 2 elder guardians, the very first ones I ever moved. And then I've got like fish. I've got normal looking guardians. This is Healer hanging out on his throne. The axolotl. Got the turtles. And then right down here is actually where Drown Town is. I was fully expecting that to happen. I knew there was no way I was going to get through this recording without those guys giving me that effect. This is Drown Town. I've got a bunch of turtles whipping around. This is fully submerged underwater. I've got a conduit so I don't actually suffocate down here. I did a fog effect at the bottom of the ocean with axolotls swimming around down there. So it looks like there's wildlife down inside the depths of the ocean. I really love the way that turned out. This was quite the undertaking though. There's a lot of things in Minecraft that you cannot waterlog, and I didn't know anything about that until I was building underwater. Like the fact that doors cannot be waterlogged is kind of weird, that trap doors can be. And yeah, this was a pretty interesting build. Something I would definitely want to expand upon in the future. I think actually every single one of these fish is named. I think every single one of these fish is named after people who are watching my live streams way back in the day, which is actually insane. Because I don't remember doing any of this. I guess I must have just had a redemption. But yeah, if you see your name on here and you're still watching the channel, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Because it's pretty cool to see all of that. Didn't really realize that all of the fish in here were named, and so are the turtles. I knew the turtles were named. Never knew that the fish were named though. That's kind of cool. Oh, I know he watches still. Nice. And then on our way out, I have a milk bucket. I can drink up the milk, and then I'll just milk the manatee, and I'll put my bucket back for next time. This is the portal that connects over to the tree hub. And then right here is the actual tree farm itself. And the mountains in this area are absolutely gorgeous. So you know I had to build my tree farm out here. But This is going to be something that I'm definitely going to be expanding upon. And I think I'm going to be expanding it either in the medieval area or the Viking Bay area. But I hand chop every single one of my logs in this world. I create these big giant spruce chopping blocks that I'll chop down. I've got the pale oak wood that I also grow the dark oak wood the exact same way. I'll build all my jungle trees out here. When I'm doing my birch, my acacia, or my oak, that will all be done right here. And then the water will collect up all of the saplings for me as well. Back here, I'll be doing all of the warp wood, crimson wood, and I used to do the mushrooms. This is a chest where if I put anything inside of that chest, it will actually go through a auto sorter that will connect up down below and sort out all of the blocks. So all of the wood, the leaves, the saplings that you see here will get fully organized. I even have like sticks that get organized through here, or muddy mangrove roots and apples. And then I've just got like a little bit of an overflow for anything that doesn't fit. I have a hoe and a axe in the floor. And then right back here, there's just a really, really ugly part of the world where I have my cocoa bean farm and my fungus farm. It connects on over to the village right up here, where I was trying to challenge myself to build better roofs in the future. Like I was just trying to like come up with different types of roof templates and figure out exactly how roofs worked in Minecraft, because it was something that I actively avoided because I was just so scared of building roofs. And this was the point where I really kind of like pushed past that and no longer was afraid to take on different types of roof styles. So this was a pretty big part of my building career. This is supposed to be a woodworking shop, also where we're drying a bunch of logs. So we'll chop up all the logs here. We'll put them up on these drying racks, let them dry out, use our crane, and then ship them off to the world, basically. That mountain, I would love to build on that mountain one of these days. I didn't do custom trees back then, but I did do like these trees, which I do like, but I don't really like azalea leaves, to be honest with you. Don't really like the color of them anymore. I made this lake at the time. This was a very big lake to me. I've got beavers swimming around in here, Kip Snip in the middle, just hanging out. I got the blossoms up on the candles, and I just try to detail this place as much as I possibly could. Got little beaver dams, and my terraforming has tremendously changed since then. This is like very claustrophobic, very messy, got lots and lots of plants going on. Not saying it's a bad thing, but I tend to be a little bit more simplistic, a little bit more clean nowadays. At least I try to be. Got a little cheeky waterfall back there, and then we've got the Panda Sanctuary, which is nestled within this ring of mountains inside of a meadow, which I think is such a cool building location. Of course, I had to build here. I got these little like ladybugs. I got some really cool hardcore hearts. Bees runs the potion shop where I would gather up all of my speed potions and I think there was another potion I used to, night vision potions, for when I was taking out the deep dark way back when. This is actually when the ancient cities first came to Minecraft, whenever that was. Not sure nowadays. This is supposed to be a bookshop with a like little tree in the middle, built out of books too, which is pretty funny. I have like cantilevering like giant logs coming through here with like the mushrooms. Got the butterflies. So we got like a monarch way up there. We got a couple bees. We got the big purple and pink butterfly that you see up there. Luke and Mono hanging out in front of the panda. And right in here is actually where I got my very first brown panda in the world. Love it. They're all being held in place by the honey block, so they actually can't jump out. This is supposed to be like a laboratory where we're studying the genes of Basically, if you know anything about how genes work, the brown panda is extremely easy to get. You basically breed the two adults together, and then the babies, you put them off to the side and you start breeding the babies with one another. And that's pretty much how you get the brown panda incredibly quick. This is an observatory, so we can observe pandas in their natural habitat. More scientists hanging out over there. We got like little computers so they can like document some stuff. Little waiting lobby in here with like the blushing panda on the floor. Up there is a catering business, and I've got a Caterpie, and there's also like a little gift shop. We've got a couple mushrooms kind of chilling out right here. And here's the catering business. Over here is the little like gift shop if you're visiting. Down underneath the yin and yang symbol is actually where we got some of our cooler shops. So we got the yin and yang pond, and then up top we got the glass variant as well. I've got the plant shop right in here. Love this floor using the azalea bushes. Love this. Like, I love that texture so much. I think it just works so well with the floor. And then we just sell various plants. Got the bamboo, the very first ever melon farm that I had, where I just kind of press a button and it crushes all the melons. There's a candle shop over here where you can even buy like little beacon lighting if you want, but primarily it's just a candle shop. So we have like wax, and then we've got honey for anybody who wants to create their own candles. I built this aquarium shop back before I actually had the blue axolotl, which is why I built the blue axolotl on the floor. These are all of the axolotls. Then we have a saltwater tank in behind there. Freshwater tanks, and then we've got the pufferfish being the last saltwater tank. And then there's a music shop where I have the other side disc in the floor, and I display like the deep dark disc. I also have the pig step disc. I have every single disc in the game. Then we got some guitars, some musical notes up in the wall, a jamming area, and of course a drum set. Flying up way up over here, we have the cat cafe with, of course, jelly, but grayscale. We have this creeper with a speed 2 potion running away as fast as they possibly can. And we've got a ton of cats hanging out with like the little like cat towers and bushes and little scratching posts. We have Buttertins, who offers up some fish for anybody who might come by. Got a raccoon hanging out inside the garbage. Got tons of like little cat toys and cat trees and little like string hanging off the wall so they could play with them. Got the little litter box, and this was a really, really, really fun build to do. Next up, we have the auction room where we auction off all of the super rare mobs in the world. So I've got a bunch of parrots. We got the parrots, the strider, and then just a couple little like rare mobs in the area. We also have a Ole holding a trident, a polar bear, and Heart Attack is just kind of auctioning off some of the baddies. Down below was the very first shop that I built for the Ancient City Deep Dark builds, and I wanted to pretty much build the Warden's chest in the floor, which I think turned out pretty damn cool. And it's supposed to be kind of like a Hitman shop right there. Up top, I have a ice cream shop that kind of looks like Jimmy Neutron's like hair. So if you guys have ever watched Jimmy Neutron, then this is probably going to look extremely familiar to you guys. That was not by design. That's just kind of like how that turned out. And then you can buy ice cream within here. I still have like this polar bear that I need to move somewhere. Just haven't really decided exactly where. The Bees Breeze shop right here that sells like little potions for everybody. You can see like Brixie, she's shoving her bag full of Bees Breeze. We have the Oracle. So Bunny Oracle next door, or Oracle Girl next door, I think it might be her name. where you can get your palms read or your cards read. We have Kuromi out here in the floor. I almost called her Miku. And then there it is, Oracle Girl next door with the heart portal and all of the gas spilling on through. I've got the black concrete powdered walls, little like book area, the end crystals, and then the respawn anchor in the middle. So one false click and boom, I'm probably dead. We just have a few more builds to visit. The witch farm, the raid area. I don't have a raid farm, so don't expect much. And then I have my humble beginnings. The witch farm tunnel is supposed to be kind of like a Halloween town-esque build. I've got tons of respawn anchors in the floor. I even have the enchantment tables in the floor, which I think are really, really cool, but cost quite a few diamonds. But the respawn anchors are stupid expensive when it comes down to crying obsidian and all of the glowstone. Got the night sky right here, a couple scarecrows. This is where I fight all of my raids, which I'll show you guys right after I show you guys the witch build, which is where you can find the biggest fog effect in my entire world, utilizing over 150,000 glass blocks in order to make all three of these fog effects. We got the purple fog effect. We got like the original void floor back in the day where I was using like the nether stars. And then I've got another purple one right on over here. And if we look at it on the map, you can just kind of see the sheer size of this place, which is just wild. Bunch of custom mushrooms coming all the way down here when I was trying to practice how to build mushrooms in Minecraft. And then we have the haunted house where I moved my first ever overworld ghast. This was a lot of fun. We have a crypt over there where my witch farm is actually located. I'll show you guys that in just a minute. I've got a wither skeleton right here. I used to have a wither skeleton right here, but a pig actually walked up over here, pushed him out, and I almost died, which is wild. On the inside, I have a auto brewer designed by Impulse. So behind this wall, I can pretty much craft up any potion I would like. So if I wanted to make night vision potions, it's all automatically brewed up in behind this wall. Same thing goes with all of the corresponding potions you guys see all the way down there. I got these giant cauldrons for mixing up some crazy looking potions. And then another cauldron right on over here as well. Through here and to the right, I have the witch farm. This was designed by Rayworks. The cool thing about this witch farm is it uses zoglins that push the witches off the platforms. Witches will throw the damage potions towards the zoglins, which will actually heal them. I just thought that was such a cool property, so I had to make this farm. Down here is where they will pretty much die inside of entity cramming of that minecart, and then this is where all of the redstone dust gets collected. I have a bunch of shulkers if I ever need to put anything away and then bring it back to my base if I can't actually hold it. Beyond this gate, we have Halloween Town. So we've got a giant pumpkin patch on this side. And then we've got like the swamp water with like the walkway. And I've got a bunch of like houses, bunch of giant scarecrows. Got some like big giant trees that kind of like arch on over. Got some cool looking like wells with monsters crawling up out of it. We got like a Halloween Town building where the mayor hangs out. I have a potion apothecary. I think that's how you say that. Apothecary right here. I don't know what this one was called. The pocket potion area, which is neat. Oh, we even got a little trick-or-treater, which is cute. With the potion right there. This really cool looking house. This shop is supposed to be kind of like the costume shop, where I sell a bunch of costumes and scarecrows if you want. Oh, there's a bunch of broken signs in there. Oh gosh. I can see them. I can see them through the walls. Oh god. Well, that was only 6 paintings that were broken, but that wasn't too bad. This is the mayor. It's Sam. And she's got Airline hanging out with her. And then I think on this side, it's Systematically, who is one of her homies. She got a nice little like fireplace back there. There's a bat on the floor. She's also got a trick-or-treater, which is cute. And then we have like the big giant bookshelves. And I like the way that this turned out a lot. To the right, I have a Baba Yaga house. I think that's what it's called. It's basically a house monster that is walking through the swamp right here. And then I just kind of made it like extremely nerdy with big giant glasses and like kind of like, I don't know. I just try to make it as nerdy as possible. Put a bow tie on him and then little pocket with you know, I don't even know. I don't really understand what I was doing here. I just kind of had a lot of fun with it, but I really like the way that the foot turned out. Looks really, really cool. And then I have a pumpkin over here. This actually got blown up in my last world tour, which is kind of funny. I still haven't fixed that, but this pumpkin right here is got a little cool looking hat on. And then there's an interior to the witch area. Let me just kind of chuck this. Let me pop it in there. So this is the interior to the abandoned mansion. I have the ghast who hangs out up there. That was a humongous pain to get in the overworld. And then there's Football Crazy, who hangs out at her desk in her library with all of her friends to discuss some really cool things. The Goddess of Thieves herself, stealing some books from the archives. I got that really cool trick where we have like the fence post underneath here, so we could just like kind of walk right up there without even jumping, which is really neat. Thought that was such a cool thing back in the day. And then I've got a couple like little like kind of seating areas where if you want to kind of hang out, you can do that. And now for the Coliseum, where I used to fight each and every single one of my raids before Mojang made raids lame. So back in the day, I used to basically summon a raid in here, and I have one villager right underneath this bell, and I used to fight the raid within these walls. But nowadays, raids spawn a little bit further away because people be making raid farms, which is, in my opinion, super overpowered and breaks a lot of the mechanics of the game. So they changed that just to kind of nerf that a little bit. Got a little doorway. This is how I enter into the area. We got dragon. These are kind of like the what do they call these guys? Kind of like the champions of the past. We've got Turtle, Nero, the zombie that took Filza out. We got DJ hanging out. This guy, just wanted to kind of name tag him. I guess. You know what? No, I can't turn him into a witch, actually. I just thought about that. It'd be really cool to do. Out here is where I have the map of this entire area. And I had a little like area so people could buy like certain little things as they traveled through. And then I tried to build up all these houses, except I was not good at building these types of houses at all. I've got like this little bathhouse. The thing that I really sucked at with these houses was the lack of detail is not something I'm particularly good at. And I really struggled hard with this entire build, which really puts it in perspective how far I've come in the last 5.5 years of building in this world, which is where we're about to go is some of my very first builds ever in the world, which is right in behind Dragon Mountain, and that is Slimeville. Slimeville was me fresh out of Bedrock, very, very new to streaming and learning how to build from the very beginning. We're not going to go through this because there's actually a very rare mob in there. We're going to go through this side. This is probably one of the most nostalgic areas of my world. I don't know why there's just a torch just hanging out. I also have no beacon effects in here at all. This was a house that I built primarily out of smokers and crafting benches and all that fun stuff. I don't know why I did that. There's a slime farm down there. There's the overworld map of the slime farm area right there. But looking at a lot of these structures kind of really shows you guys where I came from. There was a time that I thought each and every single one of these houses was a really good house back in the day. This is where I was working on a lot of the fundamentals of like pallets roofs. I was doing the interiors of every single one of these areas in Slimeville. I thought these houses were amazing, which, looking back, is crazy to say that I've come from this over to what we're accomplishing nowadays. It's absolutely insane. I could barely put words together. That's toast. But yeah, I built this way long ago for a guy named Colonel. He is the Slime King. I built up a giant, what I thought was a giant pyramid at the time with a nice, really, I actually do like this pyramid quite a bit, honestly. I really like the way that the arch comes in here. I think it actually worked out really well. And then when we enter the pyramid, I've got like these big giant pillars. I have Colonel who hangs out in the middle. He's got all of his gold. I've got these slimes right here. That's the original Slime Shady. He's actually famous. I can't get out, bruh. And then I have another one over here. What's this guy's name? Oh, just Chunky Boy. We have these slime altars where you can pray to the slime gods back then. I have an ice cream truck. This one doesn't even have like a... Oh, it does have a window. You literally can't even see that that's a window. Little ice cream truck. Built the thing. Wanted to build a kind of like a mayor town hall, so I built that right here. This is the slime crime factory, so this is where I farm up all of my slime, and my slime farm is actually right down there, like way down there. And I've got like a little minecart that goes back and forth. Way off in the distance, you guys can see I have the Grinch's house who overlooks Slimeville. Nice little dock area, playing around with some armor stands for that little campfire. There's just random torches scattered throughout here, which just tells you that this place is not done. My very first lighthouse. This is like kind of like a club. You can hang out in here, jam out with the DJ. I've got like an underground like sushi area down there. There's really no rhyme nor reason to this area. It's just houses that I was building for Twitch chat. Twitch chat would give me like a random block palette. I would make that block palette kind of work. And that is exactly what Slimeville is, where I begun. Wow. Well, I hope that wasn't too long of a world tour. If you guys made it to the end, let me know down below that you made it to the very end. Because if you did, holy cow, you're a real one. And let me know what your guys' favorite build out of all the builds that I showcased today. And I'll see you guys in the 55,000 world tour, which I am already quickly going through the days. I am 380 days behind on recording this area. And I just want to just say a special thank you to everybody who made it through the video, because it really helps out my YouTube channel. If you haven't done it, please leave a like. Consider subscribing, especially if you want to see some more. I am constantly streaming on a daily basis, and I'm putting out YouTube videos as fast as I possibly can, especially as somebody who doesn't have an editor. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll see you guys in the next one.